welcome to motvpod number 15. Your executive
One,
producer,
one.
Mr. Hadi, and the CEOs, John and Andrew.
I like that. I like how
Yeah, I
you.
like that. Good
Yeah.
introduction. Yo, John, let me comment on your fit. It's nice.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. I
In
appreciate it,
the
man.
in the summertime, that'll be nice.
Thoughts
Nah,
on
you're
my
right, bro. I feel that. I've been feeling the sun come up. I was bathing. I was bathing out my window today, even though it was windy as fuck.
Oh
But
yeah, it
it was
was
feeling,
super
really
windy
good,
today.
bro. Nah, you're right, bro. I really wish I
Yeah,
could match your drip though. You got that Silicon Valley suit on. You know what I mean? The t-shirt under the blazer,
yeah,
bro.
bro, the
I
the
can't pull that
Jason
off.
Calacanis,
I try to pull it off, bro. I
the
can't,
scooter,
bro.
Ron.
Yo,
Oh
it's
my
good.
God,
I can't pull it off, bro. I tried. I was like, I don't have the
really?
shirts to it. Yeah, I need what is it?
You need to
Asus.
skin your body, and you need to
Yo, I've
skin
been
your
getting
body, a beard, like,
that. Dude, I'm
and a
getting
million
both of
dollars.
those, bro. Wait, what is that? What is the shirt company, bro? Like the clothing company? Asus?
ASOS, yeah. So,
ASOS.
ASOS.
Mm.
Asas.
Yo,
but in terms of suits, like, I think it's probably the one thing that can like really visually
Mm.
make you look um make you look put together,
yeah.
because it's just
Yeah.
so like you don't know in this day and age, like you can never really know by looking at someone how legit they are, but being put together still reeks of, well, being put together. And I think like really the only thing that can um
Are you legit, bro?
that can just show that without any other information is wearing a three-piece suit and tie. Or, well, sorry, not, it doesn't have to be a three-piece. I meant the tie is the third piece, and obviously having your face put together.
No, absolutely, bro. Yeah, like literally talking about it 2 seconds before we started about how I just pulled up the old videos, like the old pods, and we actually look like 3 times, 10 times X our net worth that
Right,
currently we have it right now,
right.
which is pretty much been the same.
And like this kind of stuff, like, look, I quickly whipped this on. Thank God for this jacket from Value Village, because I
Yeah.
just quickly whipped it on. But like I was stuck doing some schoolwork. That's why. Like it's not a daily vibe. It's not the goal.
No, of course not. Inevitably it will actually just be unicorn hair t-shirts and Motive logo brand. Oh, yo,
That's what I'm
Motive
saying.
tailoring. We need Motive's tailored suits, bro. We need like Motive
Oh
lining
yeah.
on the inside.
Yeah. It'll have the motive lining. Um,
Yo, imagine we
like
had the Motive logo like in the
water
inside. You know
bottles.
how like the inner like the what do you call that, bro? What's the inside fabric
Like
called?
wait, like this part?
Yeah, like like the Motive banner, bro. What if we had it just all in here?
Oh, just like, oh, like across the back.
Yeah. Like
That would,
Motive.
yo, yeah, that's
That'd
kind
be
of sick.
hell. That'd be
That's
hell,
sick.
bro.
It's gonna happen.
Oh,
Um,
of course, of course.
all these, yeah, all these goals. It's gonna happen.
Yo, of course, man. The goals, bro. Speaking of goals, have you
Yeah.
guys do what you wanted to accomplish this week, man?
No.
I suppose so.
Yo, I did the bare minimum,
I
I
did the
could
bare
say,
minimum though.
with confidence. As in like I did like my goal was just not to be like to cross negative, like I didn't want to have a overall negative week like I did the past 2 weeks. That was pretty much it. I mean, like I got all the work done that I needed to do,
Me too.
and I studied, and that's about it. It's pretty much zero. Like no progress has been made yet again. But like what I realized, bro, is like
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. Like I just burnt out hard, and I'm just I'm just catching up. But it was a very quick burnout, and that was good. That was a very good, lucky circumstances.
Mm.
Yeah. I caught myself burning out like on Tuesday and Wednesday, but
Mm. This week?
yeah, but in retrospect, I didn't. It didn't, like, me catching it didn't actually prevent it. I spiraled, I spiraled into just like sleeping in really, really late. And basically all the goals I had, my like my TikTok posts, doing like collaborating with like one artist that I was talking to on putting up his posters on my website, and getting progress on putting posters into stores. Like I didn't do any of that, but like more importantly, like I just didn't, because I didn't do anything. Like I got pushed behind, like way behind on schoolwork. So now I'm just catching up on that. That's where I'm at. But I find that like I basically went down the exact path that I predicted would be like the most kind of likely way that I would fail. And also the number one thing that I said, like, don't do this at the start of the year, which is in the face of stress and in the face of problems, essentially in the face of stress, in the face of problems, like just stop and basically, crawl up into a ball. And the kind of one difference, I guess, is in like the phrase "mo money, mo problems."
Yeah.
I sort of, I in my mind, I envisioned like seeing a lot of cash flowing while being really, really stressed out, which made it feel like almost like sexy at the very least. Like, so whatever. But because like I didn't see it, I don't see the results. That's where that's where I see stress, but I don't see results, and then that just kind of adds to more stress, and I crawl into a ball. And I identify now that even before that, you input this stress beforehand, and then you get into like a probability of, and then you get into like a probability distribution of actually getting cash flow or not. So my thing is, like when I see stress, when I see problems in any sort of domain, it's always like basically a calling to push further, because I also kind of envisioned in what domains I would see stress and in what domains I wouldn't. Like, for example, I didn't expect myself to be like hungry just because I'm doing things that might make me money. So when I am hungry, like I'll go and eat. Whereas I felt like, well, if I had like a financial obligation right away, then it's like then I would go and stay hungry just because it's like I'm feel like more like I'm forced to. But I know now that I actually have to like put in a lot of stress beforehand before I can even jump into that probability distribution of seeing results. So, here I am again, continuing the year. My goals have adjusted, both based on kind of an understanding of what my actual goals should be. Like they're barely geographical based anymore. I realize that as as a kind of career entrepreneur, my one goal really is to just build up net worth. So I can just do that in levels. This year, I want to get to 100K, and that's my one goal. And if I can move to Los Angeles at the end of this year, that's good. However, I'm not going to stop myself from reaching 100K by also giving the caveat that I can't tie myself down to a certain city. Like, for example, in the summer, I might start working on this kind of like YMCA type of business that my school group is like talking about, right? If I do that, then whatever city I do that in, for example, Ottawa, Kitchener, I'm going to tie myself down to that city for the upcoming year. But that's fine. Like, I'm confident that, because the thing is, capital, since the reason that capital is a goal is because capital is like the ultimate transfer of value. So that's like, then I'll get to the point where, let's say like I'm a millionaire now, and now I can move to LA, like whatever, it was just delayed. So yeah, I've adjusted my goals in that sense. Obviously, the one thing that I also understand is that like I'm not sophisticated enough in my planning, and this is kind of what school teaches you. They teach you all these very sophisticated methods to achieve results, and especially with like coding, not like software engineering, but with coding, you get into the habit of being able to just like quickly add on things to test things, and you get the spaghetti code, yes, in the end, but at least you can sort of like add on little building blocks. Like my spreadsheets that plan how I can go about succeeding towards my goals are just not long enough. Like they need to be 100 times fatter, have 100 times more numbers, have 100 times more scenarios. But the one thing I will say is that there is a single advantage. There must be some sort of advantage to all this thinking that I've done throughout my life, and even in this year when I said I would stop. And I think that what it is that I predict that when I'm in that kind of like monetarily very successful, once I actually get the results, I'm not going to fall into the very kind of typical storyline of when a person becomes successful and then they start retrospecting, which basically delays their career progression or basically takes it off a path at all. And you won't necessarily like internalize this because they still have their net worth. However, the reality is that all of their career gains have been made at the start of their career. And like, if you 2x $5 million, that's fat. However, if you had to 100x to get there and you can't 100x again, then like that means that all of your career gains have been made at the start of your career. And again, I want to find some sort of like pro to all of this thinking time that's been spent retrospecting. And again, a lot of people, it's a kind of a typical story that they'll become very successful and then they will retrospect and they will chill the fuck out. And the thing is, for myself, I cannot build off of some sort of chip on my shoulder or some sort of angst. Like I've lost all of my angst. Like I can't build off of these kind of mean feelings. However, now that I have completely pulled apart, like pushed away, or actually now that I've become like completely at peace, I can imagine myself as sort of like in a vacuum tunnel where it's like I can just go straight, like as fast as possible with literally no angst or nothing pushing me forward, but also not pushing me back. And I'll stress again that for myself, I told myself that it's like starting this point, I don't have any thinking to do, not because I want to think about it later, but just because I've already thought about it all. So add 1 million, add 10 million, add 100 million, add 1 billion. I can just keep going and going and going and going and going because I don't need to consider whether I want to go on some year-long meditation retreat. I already did all that shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm already very, very confident in why I do things the way I do. I'm extremely confident in pursuing exactly the goals that I want. And I wrote down not like I don't shift my goals based on other people's circumstances or other people's perceptions. Rather, I figure out ways to like push forward. Like for example, if somebody else's circumstance is standing in the way of me achieving my goal, then you find workarounds. However, you don't shift the end goal. Like all of these things, because I've thought about it so much and studied so much how different scenarios can play out, I'm now in a place where it won't be necessary at certain levels of success to slow down in order to look back. So you'll see these kind of original kind of thinking, sort of mindfulness things. They will in the long term, they'll actually like make my curve be much bigger because there will never be this kind of fall off.
No. Yeah.
Even with how I said that at the end of the year, I'll have to reconsider what I will I said at the end of the year I will reconsider. And I'll end with this kind of part about the end of the year. I originally said that, and I failed in my goal to just completely push forward and reconsider at the end of the year. Right? It's obviously never been something that I'm good at, and now I can say confidently that it failed. I did not push through these first 4 months in order to actually look back at the end of the year. Instead, I basically kept looking, but I can say that there will not be any looking back at the end of the year. Over these 4 months, I have basically refined my understanding of why I have the goals that I have. And the same thing that I would have done at the end of the year, having amassed all the capital, I just did it beforehand. And now there will not be at the end of the year, oh, what do I want to do? Was this a good idea or a bad idea? I know it's a good idea, and now I just can watch it play out as I put in the effort. And the last thing is that at the end of the year, I was going to make, I wanted to make some sort of, video or writing, whatever, about the kind of awkward you remember me talking about this, like the sort of awkward societal versus internal kind of conversations that happen when you're kind of in a spot where you're like, I want to achieve unconventional success, and then you see all of the other kind of perceptions, and basically sort of the kind of way my kind of one of my main points was that like society society discourages people from actually achieving very, very high goals rather than encouraging them to. And society almost kind of shines a very, very negative light on it. And I wanted to write about that because I felt so pissed off about it. And, you know, I basically faced it head on in these first 4 months, and I failed in facing it. It kind of beat me down. But through that, I basically came to a spot where I no longer give a shit about all those things, and not in kind of like an angsty, like I don't give a shit way, like in a very, very truthful way where I fully internalized that. Well, where I fully internalized that I don't. It's not that in the way to my goals, I don't care about where other people are standing. That's kind of an obvious thing. It's that I don't shift my goals like at all based on other people's perceptions. Like even these kind of little micro shifts are sort of like toxins already bleeding in. And I won't write this. So I'm not going to write this piece of content about it because I already understand it fully. I didn't need to amass all the money to understand it. I already understand it, and it's basically just it's has reinforced the fact that I want to go forward. And this is kind of like an ending joke, but it's also true. I found the piece of content that I was looking for actually this week, and this is kind of cringy. But John, you'll probably kind of get it because I talk a lot about probably like the number one career that I use, or it's two careers actually that are just very core, that are very intertwined, that I have used for reference of all my goals and my career path is that of Justin Bieber and his manager Scooter Braun.
Yes.
And
yes, absolutely.
this week, so I've, as like, you know, if you've heard me talk a lot, like I fucking love Scooter Braun. It's probably like weirdly enough, some like music managers like probably my biggest like inspiration and success, even though I'm not necessarily going down the music path. And Justin Bieber again. And I'll say, as I was kind of coming to the end of this sort of slump that I've been in, where next time I will burn out again. However, I'll just have to push on forward. I found this one piece of content. I found this YouTube video that I've never fucking seen before. And it is like, for me, because I really, if you can understand it, if you can interpret it the way I interpreted it, it is literally, it's not talking about it the way I would talk about it. However, it's the one piece of, however, I would like to say that it's like the one video you'll ever need to understand the fucking just pure awkwardness that comes when somebody wants to be successful, has some momentum, has some character traits that could help them be successful. However, does not have really anything to show for it. And they're just like interacting with society and other people around them.
Yo, show the video. How do you
so-
pull up the video?
Yo,
So
where?
show me. You don't have to show the whole thing because it's but I'll scroll through it a little bit. I'll actually share my screen here if I can.
Yeah.
How do I share my screen on my phone?
It should be on the somewhere. Should be on the
I
top.
found it.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I'm starting the broadcast.
All
right, boys. So, Hadi, if you want to show this to the
I am
people.
currently showing it to the audience as we speak.
Rotate your phone.
Oh, I will once the video comes up.
Rocket League Master Guide.
Where?
Hello. I've been grinding Rocket
Not
League.
the 5 remove rear seats tutorial. I like it.
Yeah, I might have to put a
Styles
printer there.
Huey. Female TikTok inside of 95 million.
All right, there it
I
is.
like that.
Yo. So basically, I've never seen this before. This is CTV News. Some local CTV News channel did
When I
a.
came to Canada, I wasn't able to find a job.
So some some local CT news channel in like 2008 or 2009 did a 20-minute special on Justin Bieber. And yo, this literally is such like a, it just, the thing is, I already kind of understood the way I had felt at the start of the year, because I spent the past 4 months really majority of the time, rather than working, trying to still understand it. So I came to understand it. But then this just kind of paints the picture. Like, this isn't a perfect example of it. Like, you got here, you know,
He's cute,
young Biebs.
he's confident, and his debut CD has
And the funny thing
skyrocketed.
is, I actually know like this news reporter's voice. Like, this video is from like 15 years ago, but this news reporter like still reports on like national television. So it was kind of interesting. But bro, you see shit like yo, right here,
Scooter.
okay,
He's a huge Michael Jackson.
you see the way that he talks when he's like, it's so subtle. Like, you can see subtly in his eyebrows the way that he kind of talks about the way that the industry works right now, and the way that he knows that he'll succeed. And you can see a bit in his eyebrows the way that he basically is, the way that through his like voicing, you can tell that everybody around him thinks that he's a fucking idiot and fucking crazy, and that he thinks that they're fucking idiots, because like they don't understand him, as in like his colleagues who are much older than him don't really understand his ideas. And he, in his mind, is like, you guys are dumb. Like, what I understand is obviously true, and obviously the way to success. And even the video itself, like CTV News, the news reporters, they kind of doubt him. They're kind of, because they basically go with the like the status quo, because he's not all that legit. He's super young. And so I don't know if I'll find the
He has no
exact part in the video.
portfolio. He has nothing
Call me
to
from
stand by it.
a known number, so she doesn't feel like I'm a weirdo.
And that's exactly what Justin's mom, Patty, thought.
So
an
that's
internet
not the part.
weirdo.
But
This
and then there's
scooter,
this
and
part.
he was like, "Oh, well, it's on my videos on YouTube."
Oh, okay. So the part comes up later. But oh, this is huge.
Mhm.
Yo, his grandpa is literally crying.
Without 150 to 200.
Yo, I'm sorry. The part that's what I'm talking about in the second half. But here it is, guys. This is his grandpa crying.
I used to know what he was doing all the time. Now you never know.
Life's changed so dramatically for Justin. Are you
So again, it comes down to your
He was
family
crying because
has,
Justin was trying to be a musician, or
because it's so hard on him, because he doesn't understand the world that he's going into, and because he has understood his life in regards to his grandson for 12 years, and now it's been flipped upside down, and he has no understanding of this world. And he basically, like, in some sense, he would rather it go back to how it was.
yeah.
Now, obviously, 15 years later, I've watched videos of this as well, so I have complete evidence. Like, he's ridiculously proud of him, and frankly, he gets to, you know, live out the advantage of his family being taken out of poverty, especially going forward. They've been taken out of poverty to extreme riches. However, like, even if he doesn't care about that, just at the very least, he now has said that, like, he's literally stood up and said, like, he can't even explain how proud he is. But 15 years ago, he was literally crying because of how tough he found it. And the thing is, it's not bad on him, but the point I'm making is, what if Justin had been like, you know what, I want to pursue this, but I know this is really hard on you, so I'm just going to wait until I grow up.
Yeah.
He's right. So
not.
that's the point I'm making. I'm not trying to demonize him. The point I'm making
No,
is
of course
that
not.
it's hard on a lot of people in your family, because they are used to the comfort. But the biggest thing is that it
Yeah.
literally cuts from this scene, which is basically like the prior generation being like utterly just facing a lot of discomfort because of this.
Justin?
It cuts from this.
Worried
Watch
about
what
you?
it cuts to.
No, Patty's there. She will look after.
Well, why don't you call and ask her if she wants to go tonight?
If
Alright.
Grandpa wants
This
to
is the
know what
cut.
Justin is
This is the fucking cut. What does it cut to? Bro, I'm sorry.
Dude,
It's just navigation in cars has been such a big thing in my whole life because there's always been this thing where my parents would buy cars and I'd be like, navigation is cool. And it's like, we would never get navigation because it's like too expensive, right? And the thing is, yo, this summer, my parents bought navigation for our Mazda 3 and it was like $200, right? They finally bought the navigation. I've been like talking about fucking navigation in cars, but for like 5 years now, you know what I'm saying?
blew
And
your mind, bro.
and they finally bought it. So now at the age, basically at the age of 18, I drove in a car. My family owned a car with navigation, right? You know what I'm saying? And bro, this is 2008. So you got this, right? Family, okay? They low-key want navigation in their car too, you know what I'm saying? But it's like they don't understand how to get it.
And
This
it's too scary
motherfucker,
for them.
it's 2008. It's exactly. It's too, bro.
They had these since like the
In
beginning of the
2020,
2000s.
bro, in
Nah,
2022, I was talking about, yo, we need to get navigation. We need to get navigation. Oh, do I want to spend $500 for navigation because I'm a broke little shit? Whereas the motherfucking
Like a sat
innovators,
nav, like integrated into your car, or like just like a GPS, like a Garmin.
the motherfucking, risk-taking class had afforded themselves navigation in fucking 2008, bro. That's 4 years after I was
If
born.
Grandpa wants to know what Justin is doing, he
Look
should
at
I
this
mean,
shit.
to be fair, back
that's what Scooter's
then,
been on. That's what's been Scooter's
sat
been on.
navs have been were
Bro,
more.
they're all downing him. They're all downing him. His fucking colleagues are downing him. You know what I'm saying? He can't get this kid signed, right? All right?
Mhm.
And this motherfucker is driving in the LA sunset with fucking navigation. I know it's crazy. I'm going crazy over navigation, but you don't understand
Nah,
how
but I
fucking
get
crazy
it,
it was
bro.
when I saw navigation in 2008,
Yeah,
right after
it's a luxury car.
this.
The
You know
point
what I'm
is
saying?
that they doubted him, but slowly but surely the momentum carried it through, and you could see in the most subtle ways that he was winning. And that's the thing.
operation.
Exactly.
Only
And now
That's what they don't see.
they all love it.
Yeah, of course they love it. They
They all
only
bask
love
in
you
the
when
glory
you're
of it.
up, bro. They only love you
They
when
all
you
bask in the glory of it.
Ron is already
exactly. You
a
know
So-
they
industry veteran.
they wanna
Billboard magazine called
cover
him
up the
one of
fire
top
when it's
30
burning, but they want to
under
bask in
30
the
to
shining
watch.
star
He'll tell
that
you
is
it's
us.
all about
And you know,
marketing
inevitably, like
and hype.
You can't.
that is the progression that we're going through. It's really good that
Of course.
we get through that, as you were speaking on before, with regards to getting this shit out of the way. Like I was actually thinking about this a lot lately, as in inevitably, especially with AI and these tools, but more so just progression in technology and automation and etc. in information in general. The easier it is to do hard work at scale and do a lot of work at scale, the more and more that shift between talent and hard work has an increasing margin between them. As in, if I am down here, you're at the lowest level of progression. Talent will outclass anybody because nobody's put in any work. But once work is done, then in the middle between that sigmoid curve, there's like hard work is going to beat talent, and it's just going to be a function of how many people actually put effort into it. But once you get to the highest points at that plateau, it returns back to that scale where it's versus talent and other talent. Because once everybody is hardworking again, it becomes those very small intricacies that actually make people develop. And I've been thinking a lot about how I need to really correct my foundations and my reasoning, my logic, so that once we get to that top, to the higher echelons, that it will actually be an unformidable force how people compete with me. I would be completely prepared to have any discussion in those circumstances. And on the same token, as you said, you wouldn't have to look back and try to resolve what's going on. And I think that's super important because often a lot of people, when they're up there, they're not going to be ready. And that's the thing. They're not going to be ready for when people who have been just frankly cracked at everything they do their entire life, when they have some genuine logical propositions to be exposed, how are you going to be able to fight it if you're not actually mentally prepared to go and interact with any human under any endeavor? So I've been thinking so much about how to truly encapsulate our creativity at the purest form and try to actually let ourselves be authentically genius so that we can break that gap between the upper levels of talent.
Yep.
And so, seeing that right there, like that's why it's really good to see people when, like as you said, it was in his eyebrows, it was in our eyes, those soldier eyes, where they just knew that we were absolutely capable. And it's always those people who just you can see in their soul that they always had it in them, that inevitably they'll be successful later on.
Yeah, you can see that he has a proposition, and it logically plays out.
It's
But
not even 30 yet.
his colleagues, I don't know. I don't know what's. It
He's
feels weird because it
challenging the
feels like,
status quo. Frankly, like it could be a bunch of different things that actually make him different, but at the end of the day, honestly, challenging the status quo is a really big upset. Like once you had something that's been the standard, sorry, for the longest time, if you have something that's just been the same thing over and over again, inevitably the market's gonna want something to change. Like
yeah,
they just don't want it to be the same, regardless if it works
right,
really well or not.
right, and um, sorry, I don't mean to harshly deviate. I just wanted to add in that the kind of the last segment that stood out to me right after that one, on which I paused on, which is where you really saw him like low-key shitting on the industry, um
Mm.
but like being kind to CTV News, right, to national television, was an interview between 12-year-old Justin Bieber and the news reporter who, like, if you saw the news reporter, you know them, like they're a regular on CTV, and she's sitting in front and she's doubting him, like she's doubting him too, like in the interview she's talking about, and like it makes sense because it's like it is it is in the news, so there's nothing really wrong with talking about critics and stuff like that, but you can also see like I don't know what like I can't say it's like particularly jealousy, but again, like that's why I say that the video is all you need to know about my all you need to know about the awkwardness of success is because I can't explain it in words, but if you see the way that she talks
Yeah.
to him, like she's low-key talking down to him, and she's basically saying like you don't know what you're getting into. Your career is going to be over within 2 years. The industry is going to eat you up and then spit you out. And she's low-key feeling like, oh yeah, he like basically, obviously he's very young, so he can't like fully explain himself, and she's like, and and he's talking about how he's like the only one who's made it out of his who's become famous out of his like small town, and she brings up how like the CTV national news anchor is from Stratford, Ontario, and so he's famous, and and Justin's like he doesn't really know what to say. He's like I think he says something like, well, like they wouldn't know him in like a small town in Germany, and she's like, that's right, because he's he's the head anchor of the national news in Canada, like look, like talking down to him, right? And anyways, bro, it's like it's just so awkward because it's
No,
like
but I get it, bro.
the point is that
I see it.
if he were to play into that um if he were to play into that kind of perception, if he were to play into her consciousness, her standpoint, her circumstances, right, which is like, you're not shit, my fucking co-anchor is more famous than you know what I'm saying, and he worked for it, right? If
Yeah,
he were to
bro.
play into that, right,
Right.
her life would not be affected, as in his life would be, as in it's not even about who's right or who's wrong. This is why I flopped out the window. I used to care about who's right and who's wrong. It's not necessarily helpful. It's not necessarily helpful in the kind of personal kind of tweaks of success. It's more about, if he were to play into her, if he were to say, okay, you're right, I don't have it, 10 years later,
No
she would have
judgment.
nothing to say for his lack of success, right? Like her life would be the same, his life would be different, right? And if he came to her, and then and if he and if, let's say, he had like some sort of, let's say that you had a kind of time machine which you could adjust in action, right? And let's say he came to her and showed her a kind of movie about his life as it is, as we know it today, right? If he would have not listened to her, and he would have said, well, what do you have to say about this? Like, how are you going to
There's
like
no
like
retribution.
like right? Give me retribution for the fact that you were wrong, right? Give me retribution for the fact that you were wrong, right? If you plan that who's right and who's wrong thing, and
Yeah.
not I am right and you are not considered, right? If you would have played on the you are right, you who's right and who's wrong, and would have said you are right, and then came to her and showed her the movie of him, taking his family out of poverty, then
Nothing
one
would
sec.
change for her.
Then right, exactly. She would
Nothing
have
would
no. She
change.
would have no. She would have no retribution for it. Yeah, like she's like, okay, like sorry, bro, and then she just goes on and continues with her day, right?
Which
However,
says
he
so
would
much about many things. Like it says for one about like having the perspicacity to look through those things when it's not actual advice, it's just people shitting on you versus giving said advice and making sure that you're not a proponent of those things. Because then again, like people who look up to you, and this is what I was gonna touch on next. Like it's very easy to actually see through like the people who are genuinely envious of you, like people who are actually like out to see your downfall. You know, people who are just like frankly just haters. But I think it's much more harder to make the distinction
exactly,
between those who actually have your best interest, but they still don't really
exactly,
have anything good to say.
and that's why they ought to be in the same category, and it's not in the they're bad category. It's in the it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter
Exactly.
because
Absolutely.
I'll just choose. And the thing is, he we the reason that this is important and is that he got matched. You had an A-level A-level potential talent mixed with A-level potential manager, as in, well, like they pushed each other. Actually,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
as
of
in,
course. The duo.
like they both wanted to make a shit ton of money, right? They both wanted to. You know what I'm saying?
And they did it.
So from that sense, they could have done it. However, alone, like let's talk about Justin. Obviously, he had no fucking shot, right? Like what was he gonna do? The point is that he wouldn't have even he got pushed, right? Like if he would have been like, oh, like she's right, this motherfucker would have been like, okay, we're doing this interview tomorrow. You're making this single. You're meeting with this person. We're going this. He's like, oh, but she said, he's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about it, right?
That's that
So he
that's
had
that accountability, bro. I see the
exactly
parallelism.
right. So
I see a
you know what I'm
reflection.
saying. So for anybody, you sort of have to act like your friend's manager, not from a standpoint of managing their time, but from a standpoint of because the difference, but it's not about the actions of a manager. It's about the incentives of a manager. A manager owns part of your success, thus they have an incentive for you to succeed, right? So it's like so it's not about like I'm not gonna fucking tell you what your schedule is. Like I don't have time for that. However, when you're here, it's like when you're here, it's like I want you to be successful, right?
Absolutely. Because
So I'm like
equity.
fuck that bitch. Like no, like do you, right?
Exactly.
So it's
We have
kind of
equity
that's the point.
in each other's success, and that's
Exactly.
how you gotta accelerate. That's how you
Um,
gotta go.
so not we can't all afford managers, and we never will be actually because our success is much too large to like we can't really give anybody equity in our success because like it doesn't make sense. Like you can't do that as like an entrepreneur because then that person would just become the entrepreneur and then you just lose, right?
No, of course, but by the
You can find
time
people
building relationships and finding the time to actually be friends with these networks, that's equity in of itself. Like if you know
yeah
millionaire
yeah
friends,
yeah
bro, and they're millionaires as well, like how does that look on your
yeah
regard as well as
yeah
your ability to scale your own connections? But you're so right, bro.
yeah
Like I mean, I don't really think I've had that issue on the surface level because frankly, I just get really I don't want to say resentful, but I get really like upset when I hear stuff like that because like you I feel like everybody can identify it to some degree where it's just like, oh, this person's just a hater for like straight up. And you got to do your due diligence to get rid of those people out of your life, bro. And I feel like I don't have that issue because the second I see that shit, I always remove it immediately, bro. It's like a fucking cancerous tumor, man. You can't be having that around you because it will, regardless of how formidable you think you are, it will still affect your decision making to some degree. That's why you have to have absolute clarity. What's the hardest thing is when people like your manager has the best interest, but then again, they're not around all the time.
that's
So
right
how do
so
they
even
know
so
the full picture? You have to be able to put all these pieces together and also consider even the haters' advice as well, but also consider none of them at the same time and make your own actions.
But the point
Because
is, you only consider it on the front of getting towards your goals. You're not going to do these little micro adjustments that end up eating away at it.
oh, of course, it's literally like it's like steering the boat kind of thing. You know, it's like changing your bearings pretty much. Like you're not gonna be like changing your route, but you're just gonna be trying to get to the same place in different ways. But those things actually change quite a bit. And so, and like as you said, you know, like, oh, maybe I'll just start later, you know, like that's that's actually horrible advice, but it seems like it seems on the surface that he's not changing much. He's just waiting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's honestly the worst advice.
Changing the time frame is changing the goal.
Anytime someone ever tells you to wait, nah, you never time
again-
the market, bro.
Because
Never time the market.
even if your bitch is like, oh, I want to wait, like no, no.
No.
Okay, we're going to like Alicia. We're going to bed. Like I don't care. Like we're going to a
There's-
different one.
there's
You know
no
what I'm saying?
time scale.
Same idea. There's no time scale.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Changing the time scale is changing the goal, and don't use truth when it comes to the goal. Use truth when it comes to the action plan. When it comes
Absolutely.
to goals,
Absolutely.
just use what the fuck you want to
You
do.
can't
And,
logic or fucking theorize
because-
things that are absolutely unable to be
because
predicted.
meanwhile, grandpa who is from a completely different generation, knows nothing of this, has lived in, you know, fair poverty. I mean, it was, you know, they did probably own their house, so you can't really call it poverty from like living circumstances,
Mhm.
but like income wise, like they pretty much have nothing. Meanwhile, you know, you got Scooter out here in fucking BMW, full navigation, you know, riding in the LA sunset, and that cut is like, they obviously did it on purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
is fucking ridiculous. And but the biggest point is that there will be no retribution.
Absolutely not.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing that in my head, like if you really tried to fight it, you would just say to the person, like you'll have nothing to say to me if I fail, but I could have proved that I could have succeeded. The point is, you can't prove that you could have succeeded. It doesn't even matter. So they'll always, like, you'll never be able to come saying and be like, oh, I didn't do this because of you. They'll be like, oh, there's not, right? But the point is, like the retribution point is so big, because again,
Absolutely.
imagine this. Imagine him walking up to the news reporter. She has since made gross income of probably over $1 million because she has a very high paying job, and, you know, lived out her life the way that she wanted to. Meanwhile, you have just continued to live in your impoverished circumstances, with your gifts not being, you know, tested to their full potential.
And wouldn't
Some
matter
other,
to her, bro.
some other kid, Scooter probably found some other fucking kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To go in,
That's also really big, bro.
right? He probably only, the thing is, even so, they could be like, oh, that would have been you, but it's not true, because we can assume that there's definitely a probability that if he would have found somebody else, he wouldn't have been as good. So the success wouldn't have actually played out the same. So even if you see somebody and you're like, oh, that could have been me, that person could be completely undershooting who you actually could have been, because you might just be more talented than them. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's like, so there's really there's no way to, so first of all, the fact that there's no way to actually look and see what it could have been, that's the reason that you can, you know, not pursue it and justify it, because you will have no way to seek retribution. However, theoretically, if you could seek retribution, how fucked up would that be?
Yeah. That would be fun.
That'd be fucked. You'd be like, yo, this could have been me, but no.
And
Because
then
of that, and you said it's that bitch's fault, right? It's that
and then they
bitch's fault,
died.
which is fair. And then you would have come to that bitch, and she would have said, "Sorry, my fault,
The
bro."
thing is, bro, like if that was the case, if you did get retribution, people would be so much more accountable. You wouldn't hear this nonsense be thrown around anymore.
They wouldn't say shit, because she'd be accountable for $100 million.
Exactly.
She would
Absolutely.
literally be accountable for $100 million, right?
More,
So
more
it's
than
like,
100 million, bro. Like 500 billion, bro. Like
facts, because she would, because that's just Justin's. But if you think about all the investments that were made on the manager side, and everybody who, that's billions of dollars.
billion.
True, billions of dollars were generated because of this career, right? You can't pay back all those people
Absolutely not. Like so many people, bro.
because
Like,
of the further
think about all the
investments.
people she made impoverished. Think about all
You
the
have to-
children
you
in
think-
Africa that she actually made
facts.
poor.
Well, it's true. Think about all the artists who came out of that because of that success. Then, right? You think about those. You think about all the share. You think about the companies that were made. And this is true. Like
It's a
he's
butterfly effect,
involved
bro.
in billion-dollar
In
transactions.
fact, Justin Bieber was actually like a peacemaker at Ukraine, and then you know what? Like without him, bro, like it just didn't happen, bro. So she just has to die. That's the kind of effect that happens, bro.
She would get the death penalty. She would literally
She
get the
would
death
have
penalty
to.
because it's like
You have to reinstate the death penalty. Bad advice, you get the death penalty.
bad advice is literally worth billions of dollars. Take that.
Literally, bro. Literally.
She couldn't pay off her debts. She would
She-
have to be killed.
She'd have to be killed, bro. And she'd also probably killed like thousands of people as well, bro. It's a Doppler effect, man. It keeps going and going, bro.
Bro,
Yo,
her family would become impoverished because they would just have generational debt of billions of
yeah.
dollars.
They would
They'd be
have to
tied
apply
down
it.
to
They would
the
have
banks.
to pass it down, bro. They'd have
That's
to,
what I'm
bro.
saying. They'd have to pass down
Yeah.
billions of dollars of debt.
Yo, no, but if they can't do that, bro, they're gonna have to raise inflation, and then everybody's gonna be poor, bro. She actually is responsible to
This bitch
for
is
trillions of
literally-
dollars.
if you could get retribution for missed out success, but the thing is, then apply it to yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, the reason that retribution will never work is because it's still your choice, right?
Yeah,
Technically.
exactly.
Right?
And that's
your
the
choice.
point that we're making.
And thus, what about my retributions, bro?
Mhm.
I might be liable for like 10K because of all this thinking that I've done.
I think
bro.
you already are.
bro.
Pay
I
up.
think I've already. Facts.
Frankly, I think I'm liable for 400K. I think
You're
I'm liable.
liable for like 20 jobs, bro.
I think I am. I actually am. I am. Absolutely
You are
am.
literally liable for 20 jobs. As you are liable for
Fuck.
the effects in society that you could have done, but you didn't create.
I
You
guess
know
I
what
have to
I'm saying?
create 40 jobs, bro. I have to make it up, bro. That's what we gotta do. We gotta measure how much shit we're accountable for, bro. What's our theoretical liability,
true.
man? What
Bro,
are we
no,
retributed for?
but based on my original goals, I am liable up to this day for like 13K in profit.
That's a
So
lot.
I'm going to recoup it. But look, the goals always need to be backed by more sophisticated paths to them. But we will go forward not having to look back at any point.
Mhm.
I can
Oh,
live this
yeah.
for the rest of my life and not look back because I know that achieving generational wealth is such a reliable goal. Like I don't need to think about it anymore, really.
Yeah, there's nothing to think about, bro. And frankly, there's nothing to look back on. Like more and more, I don't even think about the past anymore. The only time I look back at the past is to see where I went wrong, bro, because I burnt out. I want to notice that. But I don't think about like, oh, what about the times I used to have, bro? Like, I don't fucking give a shit about that, man. It's only about right now, bro.
Yo,
like,
and
already
for the
happened.
sake of interest, you know what? I might add that it's actually super interesting to be in this position because I wrote down maybe a week or two ago that there's a difference between having the fear of looking at your doubts, or sorry, looking away from your doubt. There's a difference between looking away from your doubts and looking at your doubts and seeing nothing.
Mm.
So there's a difference between that. And it's interesting because I've never really been in a position up until now. It's still on a linear. I wouldn't say it fully converged, but it's just so far gone that it's like truly I look back on things and I wouldn't say I'm like really scared to look at them. Like I just see nothing.
No, absolutely, bro.
It's literally crazy looking back at your past experience and feeling no sentiment. And it's not really cold, but it's just like completely empty. And like even like with my religion essay, it's weird as fuck because I'm kind of pissed off that I delayed writing it by 2 weeks. Because 2 weeks ago, I was like kind of like, okay, like I'll write this, like okay, like I'll get kind of a little bit sentimental, like whatever. It's so weird writing it now because I'm literally writing it like a fucking robot. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like I'm literally writing down words about events that occurred in the past, and I'm like it's crazy. Like I just don't care about these events. Like I'm not mad, I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm not like, but it's just like
you're just doing it, bro.
Like yeah, again,
Of
I'm
course.
not saying this for any sort of growth. Like
There's a
you just
difference
get this done,
between a
and it's
necessity
such
to
a
do
funny
something
place.
and a desire to do it. You know, like there's a difference between a need and a want. And frankly, like I haven't needed to go back and look at what's been going on in my life. I've only wanted to do it, as in like
Wow, that's
it's
sick.
nice,
That's what I'm
bro.
saying. That's what I'm saying. We've never needed to, and we've known this, but it's just, bro, I don't know what it is. It's just so interesting for the first time ever. Like I might not have a lot of velocity going forward, particularly. However, I can just, but my point is that I can just like go forward because I know that it's the right thing to do, right? I don't really have a lot of velocity going forward, but I also have no velocity going back. As in, like that's why I say like I'm in a tunnel, which means that which means that I can just choose to go forward and go, right?
You're not
Somebody with a lot
decelerating,
of
bro. That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. Somebody with angst will be able to go faster than me because they have emotions fueling them. However, over a long term, they will at some point everybody does. We've seen this. You can't name a single person who wasn't driven by angst, who didn't stop and look back. And the funny thing is, like, Elon Musk comes to my mind, where he has never actually had a stop. And what's interesting though is that his story is so clear in the fact that he was very, very clear in his goals and why he started doing the companies that he built. He was very clear. Literally before he started PayPal, he was very clear that he was just sure that these 3 industries would be the ones that would have the biggest impact in revolutionizing. He's become extremely impactful. Whereas when you look at people like, for example, like Chamath, right, where he's obviously had this huge spiritual thing where he's had to look back on his childhood, right, and now he's kind of in an empty space, and he already has a lot of money to kind of stand on. But how much impact has been generated since the Facebook days? I don't know, right?
That's such a good point, bro. Like, he's still living. Like, I can definitely tell that there's something affecting him. Like, I mean, I think everybody can, bro. He talks a lot about it. I mean, of course, we admire that he's vulnerable, but regardless, bro, like, as you said, like
Points for us, there's
maybe it's
something
not
to be
his
vulnerable about.
exactly, bro. Like, what, like,
I love the thing you said about want versus need. I actually love that shit so much. You're so right. We've never needed to, but
right?
for the first time, I don't want. And again, this has nothing to do with that stuff. The reason I'm talking about this is because, like, just me to you, John. Like, you know how this is so weird. It's such a weird place to be at because
No, absolutely, bro.
I've struggled with like angst and this whole thing for years, and I guess everybody does. But somehow, I guess
Yeah.
they don't think about it before they become more successful. I always
But
did.
we've been thinking about this shit for years,
Exactly.
bro.
And bro, literally writing my essay about me, and I'm literally like this experience occurred. And the things before I thought I would learn, before I actually thought I would move down the linear of caring about it less, you know what I'm saying? By writing it, because I would learn more. But now it's like I'm writing it and I'm like, I have nothing more to learn. So it's kind of pointless. So literally, and that's also, I guess, a part of how you know that you're not going to want to look back, because it's like you look back and you realize that you have nothing to learn from these experiences. So yeah,
No,
here we are.
absolutely. Here we are, bro.
In an absolute vacuum with no necessary, like, not really any necessarily implied velocity. But I will say it's hard to apply velocity backwards when it's not kind of applied through some sort of emotion or unsolved personal dilemma. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just awkward. It's really awkward to try to find meaning in past experiences when you don't actually think there's any meaning to them.
And it's even more so awkward to try to decelerate as well. Like, look at the position we are in right now. Like, our identity for the past, like, 4 to 7 months has been curated based on the ambition that we had. Like, frankly, I don't even know what the fuck I would talk about if I didn't have, spirituality, wokeness, or AI. Like, what the fuck would I be doing? And that's also the thing. Like, what else would I
That's
be
part of the
doing
awkwardness, right?
accelerating?
That's part of the awkwardness because you see this again in the video. When you are on that journey, you have nothing fun to say. Your only fun thing to say is what you will become, and because there's no evidence of that, you just sound like a douchebag.
Yeah.
And that's why people and this is why, of course, number one, people who are they don't talk to people. Like, they don't really, you know what I'm saying? They don't talk to people.
They don't
right?
talk to people, and even if they do talk to people, they actually try to like conform. They conform.
Right. And you see this a lot. Michael B. Jordan has the perfect example. I think where he was interviewed, he's talking about, like, I don't talk to anybody while I'm on this journey. Like, I'll talk to people like later. Like, I'll celebrate later. But, like, right now, like, I just gotta make it out. You see, like, I think every single, like, again, celebrities are always a perfect, at least for me, are always a perfect example rather than, like, entrepreneurs, because they're just much more in the spotlight. So you can kind of compare a lot of the kind of typical perceptions versus reality, right? And they'll all come on, and if they're honest, they'll just be like, yeah, like, I'm actually super antisocial, right? And it's not really necessarily introvertism, right?
They just, like,
it's just the fact that you have nothing to say.
Exactly. They're tired of it, bro.
Because you're one thing to say. I'll get tired of myself talking about what the fuck I want to do. Also, it's inefficient because the more efficient thing is to do it, right?
Absolutely.
But the other thing is that nobody else gets value from it, right? Like it's just hated on. Like if you
They
do
don't
talk about it,
understand. They couldn't understand. No matter how much you tried,
and
they couldn't.
why would they? They really have no incentive to.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
actually, they could become your friend or whatever. I don't know, but that's the point, right? Like as you said, like
But
I
you
have
you
nothing
can
else
see
to
all
say.
through that shenanigans, bro. You can see through the semantics, and that's
That's
what we really gotta learn, bro. Like frankly, we just gotta get. I really like what you said earlier, bro, about getting really sophisticated in primarily our organization, and that's something I realized that I actually have I just continued to have that issue, whereas like when I'm starting to build systems, I either don't follow through or they're not like, as you said, sophisticated enough. And I
right.
think that's something I really need to
They're just
focus
not
on.
smart goals, right? And the thing is,
Hmm.
now that I'm here, it's a full on truth that in every moment, um, one knows exactly what they need to do intrinsically, right? Like they don't really need to look outside. And the thing
No,
is,
you're right.
this has been going on for a while. Like I will do things and know full well that this is not the best chess move, but I also know what the best chess move is in that moment. And the other thing is that when I make a plan, I know full well whether that plan is too unsophisticated for it to work. I've
Absolutely,
gone through the
absolutely.
process enough of failing on different scales. You know basically every time
Oh
whether
yeah,
you have put in enough effort to
yeah.
make the plan sophisticated enough. And the thing is, it's you know applying all of these aspects that I've learned about becoming successful, which is it's not just about how much time. If I want to be successful, I predict that I have to also be like very like just work faster actually because there's just not enough hours in the day. This is this
Mhm.
thing that came up when I was younger where I used to think that the night was endless, which means that if I did have to continue doing, let's say, a school assignment into the night, I would be basically 100% confident that I would finish it because the night is never ending, right? Until you get to that one point where you're like 70-80% through the assignment and you look outside the window and it's fucking light and you're like,
Shit.
what the fuck? Right? And you find out that the night is actually not endless. There is
It's the
actually a
same as
certain
the
amount of
day.
hours, right? It's the same as the day. And now I'm at the point where when you create plans, these goals are so out there that the plan must be so sophisticated that you can't just spend a ton of hours on it. Like I could not sleep, but if I work slowly, I would not make a sophisticated enough plan.
Absolutely right.
And
Absolutely, and
that's
that's what I
why
wanted to
you
get
get
into, bro. You're so
right,
right.
right.
Because so on that, I realize, and I see this playing chess, bro. I've been playing chess. I've been getting a lot better at it, and it's because of this one key thing that I changed up. And it's because when you're in a given position, making the best move in the short term is not always the best move in the late game, which is absolutely exemplary in chess. For example, like there's a bunch of best moves that Stockfish, which is the bot that tells you like what's the best move, will say like this is the best move, but four moves down the line, you've been checkmated because you did that best move. And I think that's something that I've been considering a lot in my decision making process, and more so in playing chess, where I actually have started to strategize and actually play positions and considering a bunch of variables for the long term. Because frankly, I think getting it's been one thing, and that we've been talking about it actually for the past few weeks, getting yourself in a position where you can take action. That is the bare minimum, and frankly, it's honestly like above 80% of your competition to get just in the best position to make a good move. But more so, it takes a certain level of perception and just sheer creativity to be able to come up with a master plan that actually precedes all those other moves so that you can actually stay in the best position for the rest of the game. And honestly, like I really have no idea how to strategize because I don't think I've been long enough in a position where I've been in the best position to strategize. So I think what I'm focusing on now is actually trying to, for one, maintain the best position and also have to strategize and plan out in the coming months. And I did this when we started the podcast. I was in a really good position that whole first semester. Like I was steady going through actually since the summer. And because of that, I was able to have like really good plans for the rest of it. And pretty much everything that I planned came to fruition. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to decide something in AI. That's like the biggest goal. I'm going to do good in school, but more so I'm going to have decided about how I'm going to take action for the next coming year. And now that I'm here, like now that I've actually realize those things, I'm now just barely coming to the position where I could take action. So now it's like, how are we going to strategize? And that's what we talked about last week as well, where it's like, what are we actually going to do during the summer? Like, how are we going to be ready by week
Yeah.
42? What is the actual plan? And even more so, what's going to be the plan after that? What happens once we have this capital? Because it may seem very, very, very easy, or like you can probably predict how much stress you're going to have like in that time. But once you're there, like once we get to that level of capital, it's
Yeah,
going
not
to
even from a stress tolerance standpoint. Like it's because you're talking about this, and I'll say getting from 100K to 1 million is not a matter of, oh shit, I can't handle the stress. That's an afterthought. I don't know
yeah.
how the fuck to do it. Like, I don't know, what's the strategy?
Exactly. And that's the thing, because once you get, I think, to like the 100K mark, or even like 100K a year mark, that's the hard, I think that's the easiest place to fall off. And the reason why I say that is because you reach that threshold of comfort where you can live the life that you want to live, and you start upgrading your life to the point where you won't be able to catch up.
Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
you lose that burning passion. You could lose. I'm not saying you will. I don't think I could ever. But you lose that burning passion where you have when you were broke. Because once you're broke, there's everything that has to do that you
Yeah.
have to go up to there. But once you have that money, a lot of things start happening, and there's a lot of unforeseen variables that are going to start trying to take away from your bank account. And for example, people are going to want to go out with you more because they know that you're rich. You might have more rich friends, they want to use your bank account. The people that you already know might start asking for money, and obviously, you want to retire your family. So all these things are going to start coming out, and if you're not for one confident in your ability that you're going to continue to make on, and if you're not continually to accelerate, then you are going to fall off after you spend all these new responsibilities that you just decided to give to yourself. So we have to plan out for this. We have to be ready for these new
Yeah.
expenses that are going to come out. More money, more problems. Bring on the motherfucking problems, but you better be ready for them, because otherwise you're just going to fall off and you're going to be back in the same position. And then you're going to be like, "Oh, what went wrong?" You're going to be looking back then, and
Exactly.
I don't want to
That's
be
right.
looking back.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so what do we predict for? What do we need to see, man? What do we need to foresee?
For me, and maybe you're on the same page, it's very much just about the strategy and the stress tolerance, because again, what you're saying a lot of times comes from the angst. I'm actually not in a position. I mean, evidently, I've never really been in a position where I was prolongedly uncomfortable being broke as fuck. So no matter what it is, for me to get to the 100K, I predict that I would have to use the same, whatever that pusher is, I would have to use the same push that will get me up further. And this is kind of, I guess, the point that I was making, which is I can't even, you can't logically say Andrew will achieve his goal because of what he's saying. However, you could logically say if Andrew achieves his first goal, he will achieve his second, his third, and fourth, because there isn't some sort of push getting me to that 100K that would be different than the one getting me further. It's kind of the same thing. And
That's
this is
that's actually really important. You can't lose that. A lot of people, I think, they lose their reason for being, and that's why
right.
that's why I'm not too worried about that particular thing where it comes to dealing with the
Yeah.
stress,
In
because
fact, I'm only getting to the 100K to get to the mill. And this is actually an interesting thing, right? Because when like basketball players will say, like during the playoffs, for example, they'll say the game's not over, right? Like they won the game, but the playoffs aren't over. They're like,
I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to
It's
get $1
same thing.
million.
I'm actually not trying to
get
get $1 million.
$100. I'm trying to get a bill. I'm not even trying to get a bill.
My actual goal is to move my family into the ruling class. Thus, it actually, like, win
So it's
here,
not over.
lost here. It's not really right. So it's like that's why I pointed out that like when I talk about getting the car, it's very strategical, and that plan can be refined, and maybe it's the right decision, maybe it's not. However, it's literally just the train is too expensive. Like
Absolutely.
the hi baby.
Hi, baby.
Yo, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you today, bro.
Huh?
I'm sorry I didn't talk to you before you left, bro.
Oh, bro, I was so hungover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, this
Right,
is my responsibility. I got to retire all my boys.
Gotta retire the
So
boys.
by that, like there will be no Lamborghini at 600K net worth. It's just
Absolutely not.
it's just too early, right? Like Like it'll
Game's
come
not
in
over,
more
bro.
so at the 10 million net worth, 15 million net worth. Then it's kind of negligible, but because it's not really the goal, right? It's
I'm not
it's just
buying a
part of
car until
part
I
of the
can
image.
afford 3 McLarens. That's just how
Exactly,
it's gotta be.
exactly,
And
exactly.
the thing is, they're not gonna ask for my driver's license. They're just gonna assume I have one, but I won't because I'm him. I just have
Right.
chauffeurs. I
Bro.
have Tesla.
You and your driver's license. So yeah, so here we are. We are kind of very clearly just trying to achieve the highest, hardest thing, and all the other things don't really matter all that much.
I think
They
though
only
that's
matter really
really
to a survival
interesting though.
standpoint.
I think that's what actually sets apart people between actually attaining these things. Because when people's goals are within like let's say I wanted to have 100K, I actually would achieve it probably in the same time that I would achieve 100 billion because I would believe it's so attainable to that regard where I would work at scale in tandem to how much I actually think I need to put to go towards it. If I just want
Right.
100K a year, then I'm gonna make these little steps. But if you and I, like for ambitious people, when we see the timeline in the same regard, we have to make those steps far quicker. And so
Well, yeah, in some
that-
sense, it has
that's
to
why
be.
we
Like I
have
said, it
to
has to
keep
be
going.
because there's not like if you make $1 million in 2 years, let's say, you can't multiply that out over your life and get to $1 billion, right?
No.
You have to do things that are more efficient, and this is probably going to be much harder for me than for you because we're clearly taking very, very different paths. I'm taking like a very like traditional entrepreneurial path, so the kind of $1 billion question is more far ahead. Like that's not really something I'm thinking about right now.
I do
Whereas
want to
for you,
continue to talk about that, but
it's right in front of your. Whereas for you, like it's right in front of your face.
supposedly, I actually don't believe so. I actually think it's the hardest thing to go into, bro. I think it's about to be hella saturated. It already is. Like, but
That's
we'll
that's
talk
true.
about the-
That's true.
we'll talk about the
And that's
business
also a
aspect
pro
of
to
it.
me, right? So
Of course, of course. I mean, like in regards to that, bro. Like the thing is, bro. Like our goals it's just important that our goals just transcend all these, frankly, I guess like superficial
it's
ideals.
hedonistic. It's hedonistic. That's just what it is. It's hedonism.
Exactly, exactly. We don't want hedonism. We want to save. We want to provide value. We want to.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
want to reach. We want to reach the stars, bro. We're going
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And that's you can't really call that hedonism. Even there's a lot of like hedonic actions that
Frankly,
happen when you're able, but
there's nothing fun about it. Okay,
that's right. That's actually completely true. No,
I'm
there
sorry.
is.
It's fun for us, but it's not pleasurable. None of it's going to be pleasurable.
No, it's fucked. It's the thing is, I sense it every single time. Like now, I really sense it because I've really been thinking about it. Obviously, is that I sense it I know what it means now when I'm not stressed. As in like it's just a matter of stepping away from my work, right? And then shit does not. And then there is no, I never move close to my goals, and then I'm not stressed. And the
Really?
second I start, bro, it's a literally
That's the opposite for me. When I step away from my actions, I feel the worst stress. I actually only feel peace when I've completed everything I need to do. And then when I think more, I realize I have more shit to do. So I've been perpetually stressed. Like just constantly. And being able to manage that has actually been like the biggest growing point in the past few months because frankly like that stress just never left since the summer, bro. Like once I became aware of the market, of the circumstances, of the timeline, like nothing has changed, bro. Like
and the more aware you are, the closer you are. The more aware you are, the more the more aware you are, the closer you are to the more likely you are to achieve your goals. And the more aware you are, the more stressed you become. So for me, stepping away is just me forgetting. And you just might be more aware than me of this concept because you're thinking about AI a lot. But it's the point is that it's kind of the same linear of how close you are getting to. Okay, I guess then this is just typical. How close you're getting to your goals versus how stressed you are. It's like a positive linear correlation. It's just that sometimes this plays out in different ways. But what you said, you're right. It's really like there's no joy to it. Like it's kind of fucked. It's pretty fucked, right?
we're masochistic, and I like that. I like it. I enjoy it.
What does that word mean?
Masochistic, like we enjoy pain.
Oh, I don't enjoy pain, bro.
Oh, I do. In fact, I revel in it, bro. For some reason, like actually, I know exactly why, bro. Like it just I think it comes from the trenches sort of ideology where it's
Yeah.
like, yo, I came from this, bro. Like I struggled to do it, it just feels so much more satisfying. I think that's what all the people who actually came from that outline, you know, they come from nothing and they're like, yeah, I made it out here. And it feels so much more satisfying in that regard.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
it's just like it's actually outmatching your competition. It's the underdog mentality, you know what I mean? Like that shit just feels so fucking good, man. When you just win. When you win, there's nothing else that like it's when you win and there was nothing else that could have propelled you to success. It was just your pure ability that got you to that position. That's what's so satisfying about it. And that's why, you know, like that's why when I like I do any project and when I do it alone, especially when I carry people, that's I actually love it. I love that shit. Even though I complain about it, I actually partially love it because it means this is all the adversity I overcame, and I'm
Yeah.
still at the top.
And the complaining thing is interesting, right? Because of course, if you didn't love it, you wouldn't be doing it. And obviously, just
Absolutely.
kind of as a thing, you have to be careful about who you complain to. You complain to your boys is essentially
Oh,
obviously the answer. Because the answer, the typical kind of, you know, well, this is another thing, right? Society's therapy is stop, and my thing is like, well, that's just even worse.
yeah.
To stop is even worse than to do it, right?
Frankly, that's suicide. Honestly, like I thought of it more so like I actually could never be a Buddhist monk. I'd be too at peace. Like I'd actually be at peace.
Really?
There's nothing like I don't think any amount of meditation. Let's say I stop now, no amount of meditation would cure me from my disease, which is trying to grind. My disease, which is ambition. Like I don't think
it is really a disease because
it is.
we both felt it. I felt that it's a disease. It's truly a disease.
It is. It's a mental illness. It's a mental illness. I have Asperger's.
Well,
it's like
narcissism
it's like Andrew Tate said, bro. He was interviewing. This guy was interviewing his.
I know
Andrew
exactly
Tate.
what you're referencing, right?
Yeah, he was like,
yeah.
Like I have Asperger's. I don't care like when my family says it. And Andrew Tate was like, I don't give a fuck either. I don't care. And frankly, you know, it's like that's how it gotta be, bro.
Because he refuses to believe anything that takes away power from him.
Exactly.
As do I.
Of course. As do I. And you know what? Like actually, this was a very interesting thing, and this is on par with what we were talking about. And I've thought about conformity a lot, across the past few years, and I think that was like one of the first thoughts I had towards progressing. And you know, we were at Kingston, and I don't know how it was brought up, but somebody said like, oh, you're like I was smoking a cigar. That's what it was. I was smoking a cigar, and I was looking, you know, like how I look. You know, I had a dress shoot. I mean, yeah, dress shirt, and I was
Hey.
like nice pants, that the Gucci
You
belt.
look like you don't give a fuck.
Absolutely. I was smoking a cigar, and then someone came up to me, and she was like, "Oh, you smoking a cigar? You're acting like Top G." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I'm always hard like that." And she's like, "Oh, but do you like Andrew Tate?" And I said, "Absolutely." But there's a split second. I was like, "Oh, should I admit it?" And I was like, "Of course I should." I said, "Absolutely, I do. I'm Top G." And she looked at me with so much disgust, but she actually wanted to understand what I was saying. And she kept saying to other people around me, like, yo, I won't fuck with you if you like Top G. But yet again, she was still trying to understand why the fuck I was saying it and how the fuck I was still demanding in the residences. And I was going like, yo, listen, like you're just I didn't say anything like harmful, but I actually, you know what I said? I said you actually have no reason as to why you hate him, and that's evident as to everything he's talking about. So if you hate on it, you're basically just admiring of yourself of the fact that you don't understand anything. And she would I think
That's so true. What the fuck? That's so true. You're just admiring that you don't know shit.
exactly. You know, like they were just reveling in that. And then somebody else came, like, and a guy who I thought, and it was so crazy because a guy walked up and like we were talking about it. I was telling her what Andrew Tate actually stood for and all the things were lies. And this guy came up to us and he looked like I think he was eyeing the girl. I think that's what it was.
Yikes.
But
of course that was what the fuck was, no. He just wanted to be the speaker of truth, bro.
No, of
He
course.
didn't want to get his dick sucked, bro. He just
He's a white knight. He's a white knight. And she asked him, "Do you like Andrew Tate? I won't fuck with you if you don't." I mean, she said that, but she's still walking. So I was like, "Why are you still following me if you don't fuck with it?" But he was like, "No, I hate him. Yeah, like I don't really understand what he stands for. He's a misogynist." And I looked at him dead in the eye, and I knew this guy liked Andrew Tate.
He's tapping.
I smoked my cigar. I said, "You want to puff, Big G?" And he was like, "Oh no," but he hesitated. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not about that."
And the thing is, obviously, you were much more attractive to her than he was in that scenario.
Well, that wasn't the goal. The goal was to send
I know, but it's kind of it's the I don't think sorry, it's not the it is the irony. Sorry, that's not the point.
I see what you're saying.
Truthfulness is very attractive. Or no, all those antics
Absolutely.
that you, for example, adopted in that situation are very attractive.
Frankly, I was just
Whereas
annoyed
more
that Mine was speaking to me.
more attractive. This is the thing. More attractive than agreeableness, and this is the interesting thing, right? This is kind of we all know this. Those antics that you kind of adopted, like your dress, your attitude, your the cigar. They're more attractive than just being agreeable.
Absolutely.
Which is why I'm saying like his strategy was a little dumb because
But
he
the
kind
thing
of
is,
took what he could get because he wasn't that guy in the first place.
but it's insane though because yeah, you're so right. You're so right. But it's so insane though because what these people who believe in the like the opposite actually are advocating for like subconsciously. They all believe in that shit, but they just don't want to admit it. But more so, like they can't deny it that they like it, which is insane. Like this guy is being all like a bitch, and he just walked away because like no one was giving him attention. But I was walking around, me and Freddie with the cigars, and they were talking to us because we looked like them. We looked like them.
But the great thing about that as well is that if you were to watch our videos and even that like CTV special, which is probably one of my fucking favorite videos on earth now, like you would sort of get you would get because this is what I've been getting over the past 4 months. I kind of prepared myself at the start of the year, and now I've been getting the whole idea of that other people do not hold themselves accountable for the advice they give you, which is why by the same token, and those people can see this and they might actually come to internalize the same thing, which is that for example, that bitch won't be held accountable to saying that she doesn't like that when she does, for example, right? As in like if let's say he lost, right? Like he didn't get her number or whatever, right? He can't come up to her and say, oh, but you said, and the guy who did win, let's say, like he kind of basically did everything that she kind of said she hated, right? It's like he can't come up to her and be like, oh, but you said that you don't like that and I agreed with you, and you're supposed to come fuck me now.
Yeah,
and
I'm such a nice guy, and I care about feelings, and I want you. I mean, like,
right.
And
the thing is, actually, we've all experienced this, and that's how, like, for example, that's how I know, right? Like, I know from firsthand experience that I can't hold a bitch accountable for hating me for the exact same things that she said she liked, right? So it's like,
yeah,
and we all come to learn this, and that's kind of how we all change.
It's because the thing is though, like the difference, the true difference in any of it is actual, just like we can sense weakness. And it's not weakness in the sense of like if you were a perpetrator of your views and you actually held those views, you would be strong. If you actually debated in that
it's completely true.
But they just conform, and that's weak. They literally just hide away like rabbits in their hole.
Right.
And
and when you completely converge on the other end of that, which is utterly in a complete vacuum, owning and thus essentially being who you want to be, although it stops being a want once you completely converge, then nobody will even question this. The thing is, before, like prior to this year, when I was on kind of the first end of this half, which has now ended, or sorry, the first half of this kind of parallel journey, I would say that I would talk to people who question me as, you're actually right now in doubting my personality. However, I need to uphold it. I need to essentially fake it till I make it, was basically what I would tell them, right? And I would go in more detail, and of course they don't give a shit. Whereas now, like I also get this, like bro, I've heard this too many times. Like I've heard too many times, yo, you're not that guy who you act like, and I'm in my head, and of course logically doesn't play out.
You're not that guy, pal.
Because like you said,
I hated that. I always hated that.
But I don't really. But now it's like in my head, I'm just like, sorry, my head doesn't process it. However, it's like subconsciously, I just know that it's an incorrect statement.
Absolutely.
So like, I just laugh, and and of course, like, you know, if I were to think about what they think, like, I don't really know, but realistically,
No,
they
you care.
then just they then just sort of yeah, I don't care, right? But you know, if we did extrapolate, they just converge onto, you know, my kind of perception of reality at that point, which is that
Honestly,
I
at
am.
the end of the day, they will converge to it
Exactly.
eventually. Perception is such a fickle thing because the thing is, which is also interesting in that case, because why would you like people who? It was actually the first time I'd ever actually experienced someone who was like such a contrarian to just an homage, like something like
Yeah.
Andrew Tate. Whereas like they clump you together. I hadn't seen that in person because frankly most of the people I'm around with are more intelligent than that. But you know, these people in Kingston, a lot of them were actually just like straight up like, "Oh, you like that person? Then I hate you."
Yo, you know what? This is
It's
interesting.
insane.
This is
But the
interesting.
thing is, I don't even stand for all the shit that they hate about Andrew Tate.
Of
Like,
course,
I'm
of
not.
course.
I actually don't even agree with the traditional values. that they uphold.
And when you're around, the thing is, you and I both know this, and I was going to talk about the difference between Ottawa and small towns in Ontario,
Mhm.
which I'm sure you and James both now kind of experienced exactly
Oh
what
yeah.
I've been thinking about for like when I came here. People have us evolved, but
Fact.
the thing is, when you'll notice this, right? When you're around, um, like just, you know, more put together people or more ambitious, whatever, more capable people who are very much not like you. In fact, you can be in the middle, whereas you're like pretty put together. I'm try to be, you know, extremely fucking obnoxiously like
We
fucking
are. We are.
confident, right?
We are.
And
We are. We are.
and
We are
then
that.
exactly,
We are
and
such
then
them.
on the you might on the other side meet with somebody who is like looks like a complete nerd, right? It's funny because when you meet with people like that who are just like very, very much in their path, they might be utterly different than you. However, they don't for a second question who you are. You know what I'm saying? Only people who only people who are just kind of, you know, like normies, right?
Mhm.
Question your kind of like your identity, right? And this is super interesting because, you know, you would think when you're like walking in a suit and you do some math with some like just like people who look like complete nerds, as in like they like completely like they're really on the other end of the fashion spectrum, let's say, right?
Mhm.
You would think that it would be awkward, but it's not. They have complete respect. Like in my
Absolutely.
experience, generally speaking, they have complete respect for your identity, which is pretty interesting, right?
No,
And also
absolutely.
like for the place you hold, because they're kind of commit. They also just know like how their kind of career works, right? They understand that like as a $1 million a year mathematician, there will be a $10 million a year CEO, right?
Mhm.
And there's something bad about that because $1 million is a fuck ton of
Oh
money,
yeah. No,
right?
they
And people have
identify.
goals,
They
right?
identify the
Whereas
equals.
when you meet exactly, you're equals on a standpoint of being confident in your goals and being very very committed to them. Whereas when you meet a, you know, 70K-er, that's when the issues come out because they
Wow.
judge
This guy said a 70K-er.
well, that's the truth, right? Because we like to say 100K, but it's not true. Um, it's true after a few years. So, and then there's taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then AI takes your money, and then I take your money, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is, they judge the nerd, right?
Mhm.
Down them because the thing is, part of it I imagine is like it's just a function of trying to push yourself up, right? So they judge the nerd, right? And then, you know, they want to judge you, but I guess they judge you by, you know, like attacking your identity, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you're fake, right? But then again, like here is
Yeah.
where it clicks, right? Everywhere outside of this spot, where actually I have one of the videos that I've saved, sorry, that I screen recorded, is a clip of Jordan Peterson talking to a reporter and saying in the most like sophisticated way that you have nothing interesting to say because, sorry, I think you know the clip. He
I have
says,
to.
he basically says you could be completely replaced by another person who would say the exact same things, as in you're not a vessel of a kind of, you're not a vessel of speech that is, you're not a vessel of ideas that have been shaped by your unique experience in life and thus are unique. You're actually a vessel of a very common set of
It's an
ideas,
agent of the
which,
Matrix. They're trying to be proponents
right,
of the same
right,
ideologies, and that's why he's
you're
so starstruck with those
right,
people.
yes, that's right. And again, when we talk about this, that's the only place where people are judgmental. Again, they might judge you by saying you're lower, or they'll judge you by saying you're not higher, right? Again, as
They're
long
trying to
as you're
bring you
outside of
down,
that,
bro.
as long as you're outside of that, you're good.
Absolutely.
Even like with you and I, right? Like, you know, you might look at my career plans and say, yo, I can never be a billionaire. Like, you just can't scale this fast enough, right? And I'm gonna look at your career plans
I can never
and
think
say,
that, though. I never think that.
theoretically, let's say
Yeah,
theoretically,
Theoretically,
right?
okay.
The point is that
Theoretically, if I was a bitch,
I also never thought that you will not beat your competition. However, if I were to look to pros, right, I could say, or sorry, cons, I could say, for example, your industry is too saturated, right?
Yes, of
You
course.
can't differentiate, right? Obviously, like in reality, like we all know that we're just gonna become the tops of it, right?
Of course, 'cause
Right?
that's
We'll
what
make
we
it
got.
work. There are $1 billion merchandising and just like idea-based businesses, just as there are Sam Altmans and
We're too good
winners
not to
in
be
AI.
billionaires. We're too good not to be billionaires. It's just
Right. The point is that in
I don't
our
know.
own lanes, because they're very unique, because they're kind of built based off of our like personal life experiences, we just respect them.
Absolutely.
Only on the normie path do you figure out ways to judge around you.
That's facts, bro. No,
The
that's
thing is,
so
the other
truthful.
part is it's because we both know that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, right? The thing is, aside from we don't know what the fuck we're talking about in our own industries because we're early and we're learning. I can't jump into AI and really say anything relevant to you, generally speaking, right? Like I could point out, it's actually, the same way that I use videos to reference my life, I'll now, for the first time ever, reference an interaction in our own lives to reference a point. If you watch me talk to Duchenne about music, if there's ever a video of me talking to Duchenne about music, it would actually be a crazy example for this. Because I'm
Yeah.
always super like I feel like, at least in the way that I project my tone, at least in the way that I'm subconsciously project my tone, it is very, very clear that I know full well that I have no standing against this guy in terms of knowledge. My suggestions
Yeah.
are basically in the form of questions of would this work? And then maybe, just maybe, there's something that I just happen to out of chance, pull out that, is just like a
Dang.
unique thing. Not even because it's unique based off of my knowledge, just because there's so many ideas and then,
That's a
you
very
just
astute
don't follow them.
analysis of those interactions. That's a
Right,
very
right,
astute
right.
analysis.
So
I really
it's
fuck
the
with
same
that.
thing. I really can't say shit. The same way that I can't say shit to, I really, at the end of the day, can't say shit to Dushan about music. I can't say shit to you about AI, right? And you can't say shit to me, for example, about posters, right?
Of course not.
That's why, and actually, every time you talk, you can hear it. Your points are very much in the form of questions in like a very subtle.
Exactly. I can only tell you principles. I can only give you like the most
Right, that's right.
foundational stuff.
That's
just
right.
to make
That's
sure
right.
you're on the right path. But other than that,
Exactly.
and that's the thing,
You-
I have to
you
ask you,
literally-
are you on the right path? Literally,
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
asking you.
And as far as you care about my success, all you can do is just trust that I'm on the right path. That I
Absolutely.
personally take the right steps. And so being anywhere outside of this kind of point of normie, it's like part of the reason that we can't judge. First of all, we just don't give a shit to. But also, even if we did, we'd be like, you can't really say shit because you don't know shit.
Absolutely.
Here,
Absolutely.
you don't know shit about anything, so you just happen to know shit about everything.
Yes. Facts, bro. That is so facts, bro.
The same way that the reporter somehow, I don't know how, because the reporter clearly doesn't know more about the music industry than Scooter. Okay,
Of course.
that's too far gone to be obvious, right? The same way that somebody would clearly not know more about rockets than some NASA astronaut. Okay,
Mhm.
but Elon Musk at 2 years into building SpaceX versus some reporter that reports on the space industry, same thing. That 40-year-old reporter versus 12-year-old Justin, who has been in the music industry for 2 years, okay, but only has so much success. It's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe she's smarter than him, maybe she knows more.
But of course
Maybe-
not,
maybe-
because she doesn't know what the fuck
No,
she's talking
no,
about.
no,
Of
no.
course not.
You were
Of course not.
reporting it. You reporting it. He does it. You know
No,
what
but
I'm
that
saying?
is so wise. What you just said, bro. They have to act like they know everything so that they can speak on it, bro. That's so intelligent, bro.
You're basically a reporter.
Exactly, you're basically a journalist, bro. Which is so mad, bro. Like either you know one thing very well or you know everything suddenly and you actually don't know nothing because you're just a normie. You don't know, you can't have any in-depth conversations. The only reason that they know everything is because they have to find some sort of rebuttal to justify their inconsequential meanings. And that's so valuable.
Interestingly, that actually might be another point as to why
we just don't say shit, because I actually talked about somebody else and they disagreed with me, but they're not on the path. And I've revalidated now. I'm thinking this is a point to it, is that because what I was saying to them is the reason I don't like talk to people a lot is because I need to put in more action. Is that I can only, to people who aren't in my industry, I can only speak on past successes or failures, because otherwise it's like asking for the results of a science project in the middle of a science experiment in the middle of the experiment. Like, it's just too early to say unless you really know what the fuck you're talking about, unless you know about the details, right? Interestingly, I guess, and they're like, oh no, but I could. And interestingly, thinking that you can jump into the middle of a science experiment over, let's say it's like a 1 year long research project, right? If you are from a different faculty and you think you can jump in month 5, that must be you thinking that you know more shit about it than you actually do. Or at the very least, you can just listen. And this is another reason, right? We can actually talk all day. We do. However, we just can't take anything. Like, I can't, and this has been clear to me from day one. Like, in talking to for example, my family, they're always like, oh, you're closed off. And I point out that you can actually ask me any single thing that you want to ask me. I am completely open book. I'm literally on the path of recording my life 24/7. I don't give a shit. However, I just, what annoys me, and no longer so, this is in the past. What annoyed me is the feedback as in just listen to what I have to say, but don't get annoyed when I don't take your feedback, because it just takes too much energy for me to formulate every single little point in a way that can.
That is so
because,
fucking true,
right,
man.
right. When you
No,
write,
you're right, bro.
because
Because frankly, I've
when you
been
write
in
the
that
final
situation.
paper.
You're right, bro. People don't understand. They try to
we're
find
way
the
out of this.
motivation.
At least me personally, I'm way out. Like just for the record, this is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
old age shit. Like I'm talking about like when I was like 12, 15. Like, we've been through it, by the way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is why
But
we
it's
won't
true.
be
It's true.
And you can see this. You can see a lot. Like, even like with the granddad, right? He was crying, right? Because he doesn't get it. Unfortunately, it would take for you. You probably couldn't even explain it to him, but even just to explain it a bit, like it took 10 years for him to get it, essentially, right? Because the research project was finished and you had the results. And the thing is, if it would have failed, he probably still wouldn't have cried. He just would have found the answers. And that's the thing, right? People only cry when they just don't have certainty, right? It's not even about success or failure. So that's crazy. So
No, it's
yeah,
true, bro. You only have anxiety when you haven't planned anything out, bro.
exactly.
If you don't
Imagine
know,
if
you can't win.
Imagine if, let's say there's a research project with millions of data points. At the end of a year, you take the time to write a full-on research paper so that all of academia and even the public can read it, and then or afterwards, the news sources will have their own people, their own editors come, and they'll dumb it down for people. It'll go through this, even after they have written an article for, let's say, the rest of the industry or whatever, the rest of the discipline of science. Even after that, they'll still have fucking news reporters go and dumb it down more so and more so and more so until, let's say, 2 decades later, it ends up in some textbook for like grade 10, right? At which point, how much fucking effort did it take for that original 1 in a million data point to get dumbed down all the way to a grade 10 textbook, right? Decades. It took decades. And basically, this is the problem, right, with other people's perceptions, aside from the fact that they won't take accountability for it because they can't, right, is that they're essentially asking for you to do what would usually take 2 decades. That, let's say, that's how long it takes for, as a whole, all these millions of data points in science to get dumbed down to a grade 10 textbook, right? They're asking to come in during the research stage and ask, oh, what does this data point mean? Oh, what does this data point mean? Oh, what does this data point mean? Oh, what is this? Like, you're not a fucking PhD, bro. Like, I'm sorry. It would literally take me 10 years to explain this. And actually, funny enough, I remember this. I don't know if you've ever been through this experience, but like when somebody would ask you about I remember, like, there was a point where, like, I was struggling because, like, my mom would always help me with my schoolwork, right? She's a school teacher. She's a math teacher after all. She taught high school math back in Russia, which is why I ended up getting so blessed with, like, math skills. But there would come to points, like, for example, like science, or even in math class, just because sometimes we teach different things. It's like, where it's like, oh, like, explain this question to me so that I can help you with it. It's like, it would take me, like, do you have, or, oh, no, sorry, I remember this. Okay, it would be like, what did you do in class today, right? again, I'm not a fucking dickhead anymore. I figured it out. But
Mhm.
low key, it's like, if I were to be completely truthful, it's like, do you have 90 minutes? As in, if
Yeah.
you ask me, what did you do in class today? Like 90 minutes worth of shit. Or
Yeah.
like explain explain this. Like, do you have a week? Because this is how
Yeah.
long, you know what I'm saying? So again,
No, you're
you
absolutely right,
cannot come
bro.
in. But the thing is, it would completely it would make the fucking the research project go to shit if you
You're
try
right,
to
bro.
explain along the way. It's just too early. So
Exactly, bro.
so
Like
let
there's
let
no point.
let the PhDs, let the CEOs do their work. Lay back.
Let the
We'll be back
papers do
with
the
the results.
talking.
We'll be back with the results. We'll be back with the rules.
Real shit.
We'll be back with the power. We'll be back with the fucking money. We'll be back with the access, with the notoriety.
We'll get the
come back
money.
with it. We'll
Let
get
the
it.
mainstream media inform you, because I'm not gonna waste my time explaining it to you.
Exactly. I'll say the CTV news article is coming out today. You can
Mm,
know what I've been up to, okay?
there you go.
You know
That's
what
when
I'm
you can
saying?
find out.
All right.
That's when you build the hype. That's where you get the information drop.
That's what I'm saying. Motive is the only access really. That's actually, like all these kind of forms of media. Like, I don't know how many people watch this. I don't know the comments, and I won't. Even when there's a ton of comments, I still won't know them because they're not helpful.
Absolutely, bro. I'm not gonna watch, bro. Like
It's not
I go to bed after Sunday. You know, like
facts.
I go to bed.
That's actually why we need Hadi, because we literally just wanted to log on and not think about it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? As in,
Absolutely.
like we just drop in. This is
We
why.
just
It's not really a viewer. It's not viewer optimized content,
Of course.
because you just don't know the context. It's basically out of context.
It is. No, it's absolutely so out of context. Like, frankly, honestly, like if someone was jumping into all the stuff that we refer to, people would have to watch like hours of footage to catch up to what we're doing.
And that's the whole point as well. They will.
And also, even
And
more so, like the
that's-
stuff that we talk about are also so unique to the stuff that we experience, you and I, that we would have to actually go back to explain them. Like, we'd have to further elaborate. Like, there's so many things we don't elaborate on.
Chamath and Jason.
Yes.
And the thing is, we cut down the lore after we started recording this, though, which is crazy. We cut down the lore, we cut down the jokes. You know what I'm saying, bro? If it was like before,
it's because they might be investment partners. You know, I know Jason might want to invest.
To all the investment partners, we don't have fun. We just work
actually, we do. We keep it real with our investors. That's what you need to trust in us.
That's right. We are completely honest.
Absolute transparency in absolute. We will pay our taxes, but I'm a Panama citizen, so.
All right, strategy.
Yes, strategy, bro. Yo, okay, perfect, man. Bro, okay, man. We gotta actually like lay it out, bro, because I mean, chess is a great example to compare this to, because frankly, you need to understand all the pieces in the game and then the entire board as well to really truly understand like how to move next. Like you don't really you can't really play the game if you don't know the motions, if you don't know the openings, if you don't know the end game strats, if you don't know how the pieces play together, then you can't win. And like honestly, that's actually like what I think this is characterized as our arc right now, which is truly understanding where we are on the board. Like, I think that's what we've been getting across. And I was thinking about this last night when I was meditating, where I realized like all the progression that we have made has been more so towards actually aligning ourselves, which is something that we thought we should have been done for, obviously a long time ago. But more so, it's just like the more and more we get into our passions and our industries and the things we're actually caring about, we hit that valley of despair. It's a Dunning-Kruger effect. It's something I was thinking about when I was talking with Dushan last night, where like, a lot of people have a lot of these things and they have all these ambitions, and it feels like honestly despairing to actually go into these things. And so where we are right now, I feel like we're on the threshold, which is a bad thing. Like we should have made action before we reach the threshold, but we're at the point where we have to take, and we will be able to take action at scale. And so, from where I am right now, like I think I understand the literature very well. I understand where all these papers are going, and I understand the rate and the turnover at which these things are these new findings are coming. all the big stuff like Google Brain Team, the AI race which is going down right now. I wouldn't even call it like a race. Like these people have been going the same pace that they always have been, and these labs are just like incredible and large teams. So inevitably they're gonna have incredible scale. The businesses are catching up. And I mean, the thing is, like, the timeline hasn't really changed. But what I do observe is that in order for me to actually proceed and actually succeed in what we're doing is, like I said before, where hard work honestly is about to be the status quo, and I'm actually gonna have to leverage in some form my creativity, and that's where I'm having some troubles trying to decide what to do, because now that we're in the position where we have this opportunity to change, I really want to avoid, for one, specializing too much. So let's just outline what we don't want in our strategy. I don't want to specialize too much, as in I don't want to be labeled as particularly a reinforcement learning engineer, or I don't want to be like a generative AI designer. Like I want to be him. I want to be Elon. I want to be a CEO.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
own SpaceX and
That's
also
how he said. That's how he said. I love the how he said that. That's the perfect intro.
absolutely, yeah, exactly,
Such a
bro.
good intro.
I know it's such a good intro, but yeah, bro, we got to be the CEOs. Like I don't want to be that, like, oh, it's that guy on TikTok. Like you don't want to have somebody say, like, you know what I mean? Like when someone says, oh, it's Andrew Tate, you have ideas about it, but like you want to have mystifying abilities.
As in, you can't. So part of it, I can't think of anybody specific, but it's sort of like you don't know what they really do.
Sam Altman is a good example, bro.
That's true. That's actually a great point, because I
Do you know
actually did
anything
not
about Sam
know that.
Altman? I'm telling you right
No.
now, he's not an AI engineer. He coded a little bit, but he dropped out of university. He's been a CEO his whole life.
That's
You
right.
don't know what
There
he
are
does. You don't know.
there are these people, and there are these people where, I think a lot of it is like the Kardashians are a good example.
Mm,
Like if somebody asked you, what do the Kardashians do? You'd be like,
I don't know.
Bro,
like,
the
or actually,
Kardashians just bring in bad luck.
basically career celebrities are like a good example of this, where it's like
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know, they're just a celebrity, so it's like saying
All
like
they
just
do.
CEO, just CEO, right?
Yeah, no, facts. And so yeah, that's the kind of persona that, well, not really the persona, but that's just kind of the career I do want to
No, it's
have.
not
Like,
about persona. The point is you don't specialize too much.
exactly, absolutely. So I
However,
don't want
you
to
do
specialize.
specialize relative to other people's understandings. You actually specialize more than them. It's just that
Oh, of
relative
course.
to you, any one thing is not really enough.
Exactly. That's exactly the distinction that I have to make. Like when people like actually, for example, like a couple days ago, somebody like said like, oh, he's an AI guy, and I'm like, don't. I actually said don't call me that. Like I said don't call me that, and he's like,
Yeah.
why?
Oh, really?
Like, why are you offended by that? I'm like, I'm not really offended by it, but it's just like I want to be more in control about like the labels that actually do get spread around, because you don't want to be. Like, I'd rather be labeled for owning a company than labeled for doing something particular. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather
Interesting.
be labeled for owning like entire conglomerates, or owning like entire
Yeah.
genres, rather than
Because
specific
that's
jobs.
true. Because if you own a conglomerate, then it's like the conglomerate owns so much that it kind of takes care of it.
Exactly. Like, for example, there's this one company that I saw today. Like Mark Rober had a video about it. It was called Zipline. And Zipline does two things. They do automated delivery service using drones, and they also they have a really big portion where they have drone services to donate to hospitals in Rwanda. And so they're like pretty much completely different companies, and their designs for the drones as well looking completely different. So if I was just a Rwandan and I saw Zipline, I'd be like, yo, that's the people who helped me. But if I also looked at here, I'm like, oh, that's the delivery service people. But if me, an actual astute businessman, looked at the CEOs and the founders of Zipline, I'd be like, oh, those are CEOs of two multi-million-dollar companies. Those are top G's. I don't see them as, like, I see them as the drone people, but I don't see them for being giving to hospitals. If you look at me and like I'm an AI guy, like I mean that's more fine. But if you say this guy just does reinforcement learning, I'd be so much more pissed, because I don't want to have that specialization. I want to have my reaches into every single thing, because inevitably I will. That's the goal. Inevitably that will be how my umbrella company will be structured.
Yeah. Why do you care about that so much on a short-term scale?
Yo, it's because you don't want to. I realize like you don't want to let things slide too easily. If you're really adamant into how, especially how you're perceived, you have to be strict about it. Otherwise, things can just fly. I'm not so like. It's not necessarily the actual thing of itself. I don't actually care about it, but it's more over the principle of me allowing. It's like it's a greater thing. It's more of the principle of me allowing my perception to not be curated entirely by me. That's what I want to avoid. Like I don't want to be in a position where like Andrew Tate where like I don't want to have I want to be mysterious enough where you can't put me under any like political ideology. That's what you have to be as
Right.
you have to be that
So
mysterious.
thing is, like, on a high level, it's just a matter
Look
of
at Marcus Brownlee.
being.
Where does Marcus Brownlee stand? Is he a
It
liberal?
took.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, but
That's
tech
the
is
game we're playing. That's the strategy that we're playing.
okay. So what does that entail?
What does that entail? Well, for one, it does entail that you command the environment around you. Like it's also has everything to do with the fact like on a mental game. Like if people always called me a certain thing, I'd honestly be very annoyed by it anyway. Like if people always called me like that, well, like if I'm known for one thing, it's so one-dimensional. It doesn't do justice
You know what? You know
what we
what's
do.
interesting? I think we've had experience with this. I think we've had
Absolutely.
experience with like people, and this is actually partly why we did this. Where people who the original seed. I think the very very original thought I had is if people is that I can't really explain myself in one sentence, but I can explain myself in me as in my life. So that's let me just show more to the world, and then they themselves can figure it out. That was basically the original. That was like that's a slight reformation of the very 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 original thought I had about this when it was long before it came to fruition. Um, we've had experiences with people very very close to us being like, yeah, that's just the boss guy.
Which
Yeah.
is even when people say that though, like that is a good term saying, "Oh, he's just a boss," because then like it's so vague. But like that's like the only scenarios. Like those vague words, descriptive words, you want adjectives to be described as you. You want to be called him. That's better. Top G. That's really good. Because it encompasses so much more that you can't just say. It's not specialized. Like I'm a boss could mean I'm a boss, like I'm a boss of like my own local area or I'm the king of the world. You don't know. You don't know what it could mean. But when you hear, "Oh, he's a boss, he's a top G," among those who understand, when you hear that, you have some sense of what that person entails. And that's the kind of labels you want to curate. So you're right. That stuff is like you can't encapsulate exactly what everybody stands for in one sentence. You can't encapsulate everything I do in one sentence because there's just so many things that I will do. But you can
And that's
understand the
it.
feeling. The
Yes,
feeling, the aura that I have, that's what you want to be able to encapsulate. I want people to describe me as an aura because
right.
that's more powerful. And
Yeah.
so now that I think about it, so this just aligns in back to what my goals were outlined at the start of the year, which now that I have to strategize, which comes back to credibility, influence, and capital. And so the strategies towards that, I have to strategize towards curating a persona, and in that, I have to actually decide exactly how I want to go about that. And I think that's very important because there's two ways you can go about it, which is falling into an ideology or a particular way of life early on, which I already decided I'm not going to do it that way. Um, or I could be just purely like skillful and agnostic to whatever actual circumstances has to do with that, but it's just in principle. So speaking in timelessness like Naval, that's the sort of route that you want to go to, but you don't want to be opinionated in that. Um, because like you can be polarizing and that will get you hyper growth and it could towards social media growth. But if you do very principled things, it may be slow burn, but it'll be respected and it will be a lot easier to scale over time. And also, and the thing is though, like, so here's a strategy that I laid out. Like in the short term, I want to avoid being opinionated. In fact, I've been thinking my very best to actually avoid saying any sort of opinions that I have ideologically in any sort of conversation. Like I've actually been
Really?
removing it. And it's because for one, I'm too young. Like I know it sounds weird, but I'm too young to actually make those decisions. And I
I
don't
get
have enough
exactly what you mean.
I don't have enough power as well to actually go about it. But once I hit a certain threshold, I will be opinionated. Like those opinions will not disappear. But once I have the power, as in once I have the safety for me to have that free speech, I will unleash the free speech.
You're right. There's really only negatives right now to saying opinions. Well, there could be positives, as in getting with one side, but
But not
that's
publicly.
that's also shouldn't that's SBF with conservatives, right? Interesting.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
got to play the game. But like the thing is, SBF played it poorly because I mean he had nothing to back it up. But also even more so, like he played it poorly because for one, he's kind of an idiot. I mean, he admitted that he was playing the game, and you should never do that when you're playing the game. Like what the fuck?
That means that he was playing the game because he wanted to be right? Which he liked. That actually is interesting because it's very boyish, and also I have to acknowledge whether to what extent this is or isn't in me. Right. You basically know what I'm going to say is that he quite clearly liked being smart.
Yes. He lost and he wanted to prove that he still won to some degree. And that's how immature he is.
That's interesting. That's actually very mature. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's actually a good explanation as to why he did what he did. After
a loser.
Which is he just wanted to point out how he played everyone.
Exactly, but
Now,
he ended up just being a criminal, so.
Right, so sticking to the goal, which is to just, move up classes in society. I mean, I'm not really trying to play anybody. Like, actually, I've said this whole year that, up until now, more and more, it's like I don't really care about being right or wrong.
No, absolutely. I'm just trying to
move up classes.
I'm just trying to protect myself, like
Yeah.
I literally like it's actually like it's harmful, it's dangerous to actually speak your mind. Frankly, like I just have differing views. Like I don't conform to one ideology. Like I don't agree with Andrew Tate's traditional views on women. Like I don't whatever. Like all these other things. Like I don't fall under a particular side or color. But
of course, and it's interesting because this is kind of part of it, and it's I feel like it's basically clear now because he hasn't been around, but also we've just been talking for long enough where it's like people would be like, oh, people always associating it with like with him, and it's like, dude, like I don't really care. Like I don't care. I don't really care. Like some of the shit he says, hit a stride, and some of the shit doesn't, but it doesn't really matter. And I lost what I was gonna say, but in essence, sorry.
Nah, it's all good, bro.
Oh! As I said last week, like big revelation. I'm an innovative person. The world has never seen one like me. Thus, well, there's kind of lessons to it. Like for example, I'll never reference. I don't really have much utility in referencing other people's paths because they didn't have my goals. But this is quite. I think this is clearly on a high level the way that we'll achieve this, or the reason that we, the reason that we from the get-go will have to achieve this is that we clearly set goals that are just, unique to us and come out of our own experiences in life and whatever other influences. So we're innovative people, and again, this is why I'm so about like, content, because the I don't have to sit down in an interview and say, oh no, I'm not that. Oh, I'm not that. Oh no, I'm not that. Oh no, I'm not that. I just let the kind of, live gameplay footage speak for itself. Like you can see me,
Twitch.tv King Krechmer.
That's right.
Real shit. But yeah, no, absolutely right. Like
so yeah, you're talking about upholding your identity when people question it, proper. And then I'm also mentioning that as this world becomes more and more open, people will, like, at the end of the day, if we're about it, they'll know. What I want to add is, however, that's playing it a little bit too. That's being a little bit too confident in society, as I've now realized.
Yeah.
Right. So
I agree. Extreme action must be taken to uphold that kind of vagueness.
Absolutely.
And this is partly why I've always, not like to talk to people, because it's like, again, like you will imply that I am this in order to try to summarize who I am based off what I've told you. But like,
But you
again,
can't.
like in order for me to actually explain who I am, you would have to have lived, 19 years right beside me. It would, if we were here for an hour, I would give you, 0.001% of who I am. So the thing is, this is a general thing for any sort of strategy. It's a matter of hours and also efficiency within the hours. Because if you just need to specialize very well in many things, you just need more input to get more output, right?
Mhm.
So of course, if you do, let's say you do music and then you're a musician, it's partly because you don't have the time, you don't have the capacity to input more into like some other discipline, right? But once you do enough shit, you become more vague.
Mm-hmm. And that's
yeah,
that's the next point.
Okay.
So, talking about capital and accruing capital in the long term. So it's really interesting that you say that when you bring up you just have a certain amount of time. And I think that's actually a delimiting factor to who is actually accruing the most value, because those who have to specialize in a particular thing probably are dependent on that thing to produce more value, or they just love it. But for me, like I will love AI, I will love doing art, I'll love doing AI, I'll love doing coding, but I'm not going to stay primarily in that.
To your second point, or they just love it. Nah, it's the first one.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's keep
it
it
real.
100. How many artists love music, but they love being a billionaire more? You know what I'm
Look
saying?
at Justin Bieber, bro. He just sold off all his rights. On the same
That's
token,
right.
he just sold off all
right.
his music rights.
He just loved his album so much.
I know.
He
He loved it
really
so much that he just had to give it to the record labels so
That's
they
right.
could
That's right.
get more money.
He
Yeah.
just felt such a connection to them.
Oh, yeah.
That was his life's work up to this point.
He
felt such a connection.
You know what? Like
that he
the
just
$500 million that he
Yo,
got.
give me a second, bro. Yeah.
The $500 million he got, just they weren't that tantalizing. He didn't
Sorry,
need
what are you
the
saying?
500. Wagwan. But yo,
Oh yeah, 1 second.
next step, you can go. I'll see. No, he's gone. All right.
Keep
Let's
going.
talk business. But you know what? Yeah, we'll say that. Well, I'll continue when Andrew comes back. But
Oh, it's no worries.
for accruing capital, particularly on. Oh, are you here?
Yeah.
This guy's mentioning on the camera, bro. But yo, so in regards to getting capital, like people are gonna be doing. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not entertain the viewers. So back on it, right? So like.
Right. Capital is transferable. Or sorry, financial capital is transferable. So
Exactly, absolutely. So in that regard, if they have enough money to actually like diversify and get into new interests, they obviously would, because that's actually the most logical way to continue to make more money. So in that regards, if they're in the best position, and when we're in the best position, how is it that we're going to actually diversify? And for me, what this means is actually two things. It means, how am I going to do things and build up my current credibility so that over time I will still have leverage in other industries where I can diversify um to whatever regard I wish. And more so, how am I going to be able to put myself in a position where I'll just have enough like sustainable income where I can diversify at a large scale. And what I mean by the first point is that, like, for example, like how can I incorporate multiple things into my desires and in the short term and combine it to get a good identity, like a personal brand, or maybe like a good, like a social media presence. Whereas, like I'd have a lot of transferable wealth that is intangible. I'd be able to liquidate my sales. It like if I had a social media presence, my fans would buy whatever I did, whatever I sold if they were valuable.
And you know what? High level point. Capital, financial capital, and personality are the transferable forms of wealth,
Mhm.
right? So that's why your goal of
being vague is so important.
Historically they are, and that's
Continue, you know,
finish your
because
point.
you know what? How many rich people have talked about the need to become famous because some things money just couldn't buy.
No, you're right.
And
You're right.
and you're right. You have to become a celebrity, as in people know you for what they know you. They don't know what the fuck they know you for. They just know you. People just like you. Like they don't know why they like you. They just like you.
Absolutely.
Um,
That's why I'll be
you're-
opinionated later in my life. Like that's exactly why. Because you'd have to have some sort of deferring factor. But also on your point, the reason why I said historically is that what I predict is that more and more the way people leverage things are going to evolve and change. And I think it follows a certain progression that we're observing right now, in accordance with the like the way industries shift, as in we see like it becomes like basic barter and trade and like resources as well. Like let's say like it's literally just with industry. Like if I had control of resources, that'd be an incredible diversification of my ability. But more so, you get financial ability. So if I have a lot of capital, that's incredibly transferable. Resources are transferable. Capital is very transferable. People, the next step, services industries, incredibly transferable. The next step is information, incredibly transferable. And that's very unique. And I think like people are slowly catching up on that. But information, as in accordance with ideologies, those are hyper transferable with what we see today. As like for example, you see timeless principles that Naval Ravikant is a proponent of, and then these opinionated ones that like Andrew Tate is, and then these like psychoanalytical things that Jordan Peterson's, etc. These information leverages also build up the fan base, but they also hold a much more deep rooted sense of their persona, and I think that's a lot more interesting. And I think a good example of this is like, well, I mean, like for one, there's like political parties and whatnot, but it's also like it has everything to do with um like who you can attract and then how actually your business models are portrayed, which I can't really think of a really good example of this, but this is just my conjecture of how it acts. And then the next step will be leveraging, like again, it'll be leveraging like more resources and etc. And I think that's the important part when we're strategizing. We have to be able to leverage a bunch of these tangibles that actually outreach into a lot more things than just that. So I think everything is really transferable. Like for example, AI is super transferable. And I think that will be the next thing. Like automata will be very transferable. As in, if I know all the intelligence and I know how to make all the intelligence or have access to all the masses of of data, then at that point, then I could leverage creating a bunch of more intelligences to sort of perform at maximum capacity in any endeavor I wish. That's how I see actually, and this goes on to how I actually want to strategize in capital. Whereas I see that, I'm going to be a big CEO, and I'm going to be one of like 30 CEOs. I'm the umbrella. Everybody else is under me. All these CEOs, and it's going to be 31 employees in my entire corporation. We're only going to be one of 30 people, and everything else is going to be run by little mini bots that run my multi-billion-dollar companies.
Now that's low cost, baby.
That exactly. I am a proponent of I do believe, or I do want to try to absolutely do everything with the least amount of people. I think that'd be a very interesting way to go about things. Because I mean, like, it for one's low cost, but two, it's like it actually demands of me to make better automata, because then I'd have to succeed. But you know what? We'll see how it goes.
That's right. It's obviously it's not something to fail on just for the sake of doing it, but more so it's a force for creating an efficient company.
Of course.
Utterly efficient.
So in that regard, we have to plan out like how we want to amass these transferables, so that when we're going about building our basically like our entire empires, we want to be able to have be able to pivot at moment's notice and bring everything with us seamlessly. We have to be able to build in systems, and in fact the very nature of our infrastructure to have the ability to pivot whenever we need to. I think that's a very important thing.
And I'm actually really glad that you're going into this, because as we continue to figure out the answers that we search for in our own kind of or in the earlier ends of the path, our businesses that we're doing right now, like we're individually figuring them out. We should continue to come to understand together what the chess moves will be then, because the thing is, when I always talk about being prolific, you actually explain what it is. It's just that there's so little people who can really do anything or really affect just everyone, as in like everybody knows them and everybody cares, right? And up to now, they're basically just so ridiculously rich that it's like it's almost impossible to amass that amount of wealth. And to bet on the fact that, for me personally, to bet on the fact that I will is a ridiculous bet. Like, so there has to be other things have to be figured out. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to be able to have Elon Musk's influence without having his amount of wealth, because to say that I will, create the next kind of rocket ships is just ridiculous. So
But inevitably, we're gonna be there, and we have to get to play the game.
Exactly. So right. So that's why this is an important conversation, because it can't just be about wealth, because everybody has it, right? Like
exactly.
So it's you're right. In the fact that it's so transferable, in the fact that it's so transferable, you get to the point that you get to the problem that it's a little too transferable, as in it's so undistinctive that everybody's the same. And to play, even you could agree for yourself that to play on the linear of who has the most, even for you, John, you could probably say it's just a little bit too ridiculous, because I might say that I won't be in the 0.0001%, but even if you say you are, it's like, even if you are going to be the very, very, very wealthiest person, it's like, who will even know that? Like, it's too marginal. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's too undistinctive. So there has to be many, many other things. Like, for example, Elon, humor, right? The savageness, right? Like, that's why we love him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like, if you think about like Saudi families, right? Like the rule, the like the gold, the golden glamour, the political influence, or the negative sides, right? Like the political moves that we disagree with, for example, right? Like, those are also things that are attached to them, despite the fact that they're so fucking rich. And
no, absolutely.
Yeah, like, right, like a Rothschild could walk into a restaurant and have to wait in line, for example, right? That's not to say that that matters in the same echelon that the power that you have, but I'm just reinforcing the fact that this is super important. Because exactly. again, even if you become the wealthiest person on earth, it's just too, like, it's too risky of a play, because the competition with money is literally everyone.
The competition with money at that scale is also fucking countries. Lest you
that's
know.
Right. That's
Elon Musk paid the most amount of taxes to America in history. So
and you still can't be, and it's still so hard to become richer than big countries. So you have to start building up things to play alongside those countries, and at the same time, of course, building up networks within the countries.
I think within the next 1,000 years, not the foreseeable future, but within the next 1,000 years, if capitalism is still the biggest proponent, and I think new planets will be just purely capital planets.
Well, you kind of see this. You sort of see this. I maybe a bit in monarchs. I don't know, but nonetheless, it's so far out that there needs to be other ways.
I've always thought of it. I've always thought of like capitalism like that. It's just like an organization of a bunch of little kingdoms that people are organizing. Because the CEO is a monarch. It is a railing monarch. You need to, like, when people vote them to get removed, like, you're literally doing a revolution on the king.
That's true. That's right. You're right.
Like literally democracy or capitalism, sorry, not democracy. Capitalism is literally just an organization of mini monarchs. And when these monarchs go to war, they go to financial and trade wars, which is
that's right.
Like, it's not far different. The reason why communism is bad.
It goes physical combat and then physical combat.
Exactly. And the reason why communism is so bad is because it's just one monarchy and everybody hates that. So that's why there's an aversion to it, like, and so
we once talked about this. Everything starts out as almost like this dystopic level concept. But for example, if Motive is an entertainment brand that appeals to, well, we talked about what if kids who fucked with Nelk and U.S. senators went to the same party, or at the very least, the U.S. senators were at a party that got filmed and kids watched it, for example. So there might be something in, everybody kind of cares about entertainment, and Motive is potentially somewhat of a thing there. But I'm guessing that we have more important methods to discuss.
I mean, yeah, bro. Obviously, Motive is going to be one of the things we do. One of the many diversifications we do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like honestly, like, I think it just has to play out in how we actually build up our careers. Like,
Okay.
Like when we build up our companies, they have to be just like in positions that we can pivot. Like if I'm building an AI automation company, that's actually incredibly vague. Like I could automate very specific things or a lot of things. I could be the industry standard for businesses to get their stuff automated, or I could end up just becoming like a robotics company and I produce intelligences at scale that can do that. So, and that's the kind of thing that people have to leverage when they're making these businesses. Like, for example, Tesla, I mean, Tesla's pretty niche, but it's a car company, but it's not even just a car company. They sell their data, they
That's
sell
right.
they sell
They
their
got the
AI.
data.
They
They've
could
got
be so they're actually
the
on
solar, the batteries.
exactly, but what they
You're right.
actually are doing
It's a
is
great
that they're
example.
automating transportation, which is what people don't really realize because they're getting semi trucks that can drive themselves. They got tow trucks that can
Okay.
drive themselves. They're getting it's also renewable energy, so a lot of people love that shit. But
Okay.
they're basically building robots, which is not what people realize. And that's honestly pretty similar to what other things that Elon is really into, which is just futurism. Like he's building automated rockets. It's not far off from building automated cars.
I guess that's why we all love AI, and I guess Tesla is probably one of the most perfect examples of that. As in, they're so, and you got consumer side and business side. The consumer side seems prolific, but the business side is actually
1,000 times more.
1,000 times more money. So I think Tesla, yeah, you're right. Tesla's a great study of it playing out. This is super interesting in the way that SpaceX has actually always been talked about from him in the same way. It just hasn't played out. But you're right. Like it's literally not even about the rockets. Like the business, the current business is actually not even the point. So it's to establish a colony on Mars, which is ridiculous. And Tesla, of course, has played out. You're right. Like we've really seen. Yeah, we've seen the kind of first seeds of this database growing into a full-on like autonomous robot. And even with PayPal, that's PayPal. In theory, has so much power because it's a payment processor.
Well, they use.
So I don't know how much it right. I don't know how much that played out.
Well, I mean, like yeah, like they became
talked about
a bank. They were just supposed to be like they honestly like at first were just supposed to be like something where they send money, but suddenly they became a bank, like literally an online bank, one of the first online banks, and then they became the standard for everybody to put their online processes through. Then they also became the standard of having deals and investments and the main means of transfer.
And maybe somewhere down in the kind of history of Silicon Valley, that when that pivot occurred, Elon found out how he will now play out his game.
Exactly.
Could have been,
like this honestly is just talking about scale, but more specifically scale of like yourself, scale of like your own personal talents. And like scaling a company is one thing, but like scaling yourself, your ability to do other things is basically amassing to your actual talents, your actual abilities. Because as we said before, if you're just surviving, if you're not keen enough or fortunate enough to actually be able to make the best move, you're gonna end up just having one specialization, and that's not what you want. And that's also like interesting because when you see these big monopolies acquire all these small companies, essentially all these startups are just features as to what the big companies are going to become. Like all these startups will inevitably merge to one company. They'll become one company because they're being bought out. Like
Motive
like
Bank,
exactly, Motive Bank.
right? Well, that's why we want to create a bank down the line. Again, it's just the motive stuff is not tangible right now, but like, for example, right? You know, besides the U.S. government, sorry, the kind of Federal Reserve, banks are kind of, I guess, the second layer, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, people have, you know, talked about like BlackRock, it's like super, you know, popular to talk about right now, but Motive Bank would be lovely, but again, we have to get to
Oh
that.
yeah, we're not gonna have no fractional reserve banking. No shit like that. Once you invest in Motive Bank, you're investing in yourself.
That's right. I'll say this right now. Reference this in 100,000 years. Motive Bank, even if I'm alive or dead, I don't care. Reference this. Motive Bank will
I care about
forever hold your money securely.
Real.
You own your assets.
Absolutely. We don't buy stock
swear.
options. We don't buy
We
bonds.
don't do that. All right. We don't know Sam Bankman-Fried. We hate that guy. I actually looked at him.
Absolutely.
I said I'll never be like that. All right. Motive Bank, secure.
Listen, we
In
don't
fact-
play League of
In fact,
Legends.
if you want right now, just give me your money right now, and I'll hold
Oh,
it for you
yeah.
in my bank account.
Yeah.
Call it Motive Bank. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'll give you 2% on your investment, just like TD said.
that's right. I took my bitch's OnlyFans money because, of course, I am entitled to it, and now I hold it for her. Motive Bank.
I
When she
spend it
comes-
for her too.
That's right. I spent Motive Bank. Not only do we hold your money, we'll hold your money and we'll spend it for you too.
Real. And
That's
we
our
won't
catchphrase.
invest it. So, but yo, like, so you know what? Like, I think the play is the play here in regards to actually getting. I mean, like, I don't think there's. What's like? What would be like a unique play in regards to actually doing this?
Mm-hmm. Idea time.
Because frankly, like, it just sounds like, oh, specialize first and then go later. But like, nah, you want to be able to have the pivot ability as you come up.
Yeah. Well, already what you're saying about the thing is, what you're saying is both generic, but also will come to when it plays out through, you know, business strategy. It will come to give at least a marginal advantage. That'll just depend on how much we play. Like, for example, you know, people always, you know, love monopolies, right?
Mhm.
But that's the generic part, as in like what you're saying is basically just create, you know, these monopolistic businesses, as in they have so
Right,
much so much control.
But that's
so
just
much,
but that's when you
visibility.
have the capital, and frankly, that's way
Well,
far.
the thing is, certain business models are more monopolistic than others. Is the point that I'm making.
Oh, okay.
But let's take a case study of a small business. Is there any way in which a small business can either become more monopolistic, but I guess that's just being monopolistic on a small scale, as in like you own the city instead of owning the country.
Is it
in
really
terms of your industry, but
monopolistic though?
that's what I was going to get to. What would be a way, for example, that a small business could be able to pivot more, maybe even on a small scale? Like for example, could a ski shop be like a ski shop can be a snowboard shop and a ski helmet shop?
That's really important because the market that you're in demands similar things that you can also profit on. I think it has.
That's why I'm so interested in like early childhood education. That's where the interest comes from.
I think it's really valuable to look at your clientele because you can't diversify if the market's not demanding of it, but more so if, like, let's say I mean, like, an easy example is like if I'm an AI company and people are fucking with like generative images, then I'll do that. But also, like, what if they wanted generative videos? That's a pretty similar thing, and I would just expand to that regard. So maybe it's more so not necessarily like how you specialize, but more so how you market your things. I think that's where the difference is. Because I mean, you can say like, oh, this is purely for business APIs or whatever. and like if it flops, it flops, and people won't use your fucking infrastructure. But if you market towards not only consumers but businesses in a way where it can be built up
To businesses.
a bunch of different problems.
Interesting. On the B2B side, right? All these, specific SaaS. That's kind of another framework, which you're still in the point of making very, very far-reaching companies and thus sacrificing the gains you can make by just efficiently specializing. However, and then applying that to the B2B side, instead of buying up small companies.
Well, look at Jasper AI. That was one of the top companies in Y Combinator before all this shit hit, and it dropped down to like 80 because I think they just probably lost a lot of funding, or like they just got outmatched. But they were primarily oriented towards like creating content using AI, and they were far too niche towards like consumer or like DevOps and whatnot. And I think they were way too specialized in just creating like particular things, whereas they need to pivot right now because it's so much easier to do that.
So they need to pivot. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Because I was gonna say, I don't know if they just won't become prolific, or they literally have been outdone in business, which means that if they have, then that means that we're already seeing play out the fact of the time to make money. As in, that's actually crazy. If a smaller AI company, a more niche AI tool has been cut out of the market by a broad AI tool, that is literally an example in front of our eyes. That's actually scary as fuck. Because how do you explain that? How do you explain that from a strategic standpoint? Why did our business fail? It's not that.
And the thing is, they were there before the hype.
That's like
they were there while the
hype happened. That's right. That's actually ridiculous. That's like if you that's like if your girlfriend dumped you because she turned bi, almost. As in you literally can't do anything because it's like, or sorry, if she turned gay, like you literally can't do anything because like it's just a different paradigm. As in like what are you gonna say? Like, we got outcompeted? Like, you can't really say that. Like, you didn't get outcompete. Like, oh sorry, you did get outcompeted. However, not by a.
No, but you're right. Not in the same way. Like, they literally just got outshone because their market was way too niche. That the thing that they were solving was just solved in a much broader scale.
Oh, that's actually really scary, because this will happen to every. Well, we've always known this will happen to every single business. But the timeline, and this is another thing. Anybody who tells you to wait, this is the number one thing of our time. Anybody who tells you to wait will not be accountable for when AI eats up your market share. I might even have to pick up the money I can get right now and then just save it, because my companies will still be outcompeted by general AI. It's just that if I start them earlier, I have more years of revenue to collect, at the very least. So,
and that's really like, that's also a dilemma that I've been having. It's like, should I because I was looking at startup jobs in AI, and I was like, do I actually really want to spend a lot of my summer, a lot of my time, instead of working on my own thing, to join massive even massive time commitments like a startup job would be, so that I could hop on the wave? Or should I have to do on my own? Obviously, I'm doing on my own because like I'm not a bitch, but it's scary. The timeline is very demoralizing.
The Jasper guys did get probably better jobs than they would have gotten if they would have just been employees from the get.
Oh, of course. The Jasper founders will probably easily get like a job at OpenAI if they wanted to.
A job where their colleagues and the people who they manage are much older than them.
Exactly. And they're also in Y Combinator. They were a top batch, so
Also they got the paid. They got the payday probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're not gonna be shown out. But like I'm looking at right now, for one, also, which is what is outlined by like Y Combinator themselves, is that most of these things are platforms, which is really interesting. I honestly, bro, like Jasper, like they dropped, bro. They used to be number 1. Now they drop, bro. I mean, okay. Yeah, like before the AI hype, they raised $150 million at 1.7 billion valuation, but they haven't grown much since. And I think they've like laid off some people, but like, I mean, wait, what the fuck? JP Morgan is the CTO? Wait, JP Morgan. Am I tripping? JP Morgan. Wait, is JP Morgan a person? What am I tripping on right now?
I think he was a person.
Was okay because the founder of Jasper is his name is JP Morgan. It's just fucking me up right now.
Bro, that's
Anyway.
hella ironic. That's like that guy Aristotle from Berkeley.
Yeah,
Like,
bro,
yo,
literally,
you're a
bro.
fake, bro. You're the reincarnation.
That's actually bad. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not
Imagine
the
pulling
same
up. Imagine pulling up to a pitch and your name is JP Morgan. Like, what are they gonna say? No.
guy. Yeah, like what the fuck, bro? Yeah, literally, bro. That's bad.
How do you explain it? How do you explain that to like your manager if you like miss that investment 10 years later? They're like, yo, the guy's name is literally JP Morgan.
Yeah, bro. Like this guy better not have been invested in Silicon Valley Bank. That would have been mad. That would have been very mad. Anyways, but yeah, bro. Like I mean, like they're probably still doing good, but
Oh yeah.
regardless. Yeah, bro. Like this is what's been so like scary because like seeing the timeline play out in full. Like I don't think the timeline has changed. I don't think it's getting any sooner. I still think 7 years is still the mark. But like I actually think 2029 will be
We're
a
not
big
gonna
year.
be 30. We're not gonna be 30. And it'll literally just run every business.
Yeah, literally,
What are you
bro.
gonna do?
That's what I'm saying.
You
I'm
can-
gonna
you
run
can
every
literally-
business.
If shit. If you know, as long as robots are just too expensive, you can go and be the arms. Like it'll just be on a computer screen. Like you know, let's say it's a gym company. It'll just be on a computer screen. Like go get this bar from this location, get this piece of hardware from this location, and put them together. You're literally a fucking here's
No, that's so
$5 transfer
right.
to your bank
We're
account.
going to be in the short term. We are going to be the vessels of these hyper intelligences until they can make their own vessels, which is terrifying. It's terrifying. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, we're replacing intelligence at such a large scale, and then once it becomes feasible, when these startups, these robotic companies come up, we're going to be replaced so fast.
Yeah,
And
you're increasingly you're either, you know, a small minority of owners, or you're a vessel, or you're just in between where it hasn't taken over yet. Your
Mhm.
industry.
Yeah, so yeah, bro. I mean, like, I don't know. I've been an advocate. You know, when you were talking about how people aren't accountable for when they give advice, actually, I do make a very good, I do make a very good effort to make sure that I actually only say things that I truly would believe for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I actually do like recommend constantly that people should get into AI, like so much because whether or not like you wanted to like you want to or want to or not learn how to code, you're gonna have to because the scale of these businesses are gonna 10x, and the scale of like these generative AIs, which is honestly scratching the surface, is gonna 10x the output that individuals can make. And so once it becomes industry standard that like a bunch of these AI tools are going to be leveraged in the workplace, then people are going to have to be already used to that, and that's where the jobs are going to look for. But more so, people who are going to be able to build products individually on their own accord at incredible scales will be absolutely optimized to do so. And that's the thing, right? Like right now we're in a position where there's probably like 20 or 30,000 people who are working on startups in similar light to this, using and leveraging AI to actually scale their output and amass far more technology and capabilities than they would have from a team of 300 people, which is incredibly terrifying because in the short term, you're going to be outcompeted by those who simply outworked you. And you know, like shortly after that, the people who outworked you are going to be at that echelon where they're going to only have to worry about talent. But you don't want to be on at the other side before that wave passes, where the progression, the ability to actually do work, to actually get to that point supersedes your lifetime. And that's the timeline. It's when the amount of hard work you have to do to actually get to that point will increase more and more the more we wait until it'll be far past our actual working age to actually be able to surpass the generational wealth margin. So in terms of diversification and trying to make sure that we can pivot, we have to leverage what these people are leveraged before, and we talked about this with data and monopolies and building in our first few podcasts, where creating intuitive products and catching the wave is a lot about trying to follow in the year of the convergence of information. And so we have to either contribute to it or make it easier for people to amass data at scale. And so in regards of that, when you're trying to build a company, obviously, you know, the first thing you think of is how can I, you know, sell data? How can I get this data to other people, and how can I have a valuable product that also somehow gets like incredible data out there? And I think that's where pivots and people who are able to pivot will be very powerful. And that's also where I think things like Jasper actually fall short, because as a generative AI company, they actually are purely reliant on data. They don't necessarily get an influx of new data, not that I understand. And I think that's very important because they don't necessarily have access to the content on their tool. That's why platforms on Y Combinator are the most biggest and most successful business models, because they actually sell data to advertisers. But eventually it's going to be selling data to data pools and data lakes that actually just sell these databases to a bunch of AI companies. And that's what people also don't realize, is that when these AI companies are coming, like, I mean, there is a lot of information on the internet, but specific information in regards to automation and other things that hasn't come up yet are just aren't there yet. Like there's not large scale collectives of information other than video, which is really big. Video is really big. But there's not like any labeled databases of like enough action states to actually surmount people to make like supervised and very fast scale generative models of things that actually have to do more complex things. And I know that was I know that was a big mouthful that I just said, but essentially what I'm saying is that in order to diversify, and this is no means what like the holy grail, but for me, I think the path is to be able to create things that can create specific data in regards to specific models so that they can leverage off of me more so than I leverage off of them. You want to be able to have and that's why we're talking about transferables in regards to money, where again it's also like a transferring in it like a zero sum game, whereas I don't want to be in the negative when I'm using data, because inevitably I'm going to run out of more things to iterate on, and my growth is going to slow down. So when we're talking about transferables, you want to be able to create more than you consume in regards to the transferables. Like you don't want to be in data debt. You don't want to be in consumer debt. You don't want to be in money debt. You want to be able to produce things. Jasper, I don't think produces data, so that's why they're not going to fall through. But ChatGPT, they have a unique little thing where they have human feedback, as in like they record how you respond to it, and they add it to the database immediately, and that's where like they can have some sort of growth. But also like ChatGPT and GPT-4 has access to all the words on the internet. When you have something like a robot, you know, like how many robots exist, right? Like you're gonna have to find a way to copy and get all the data, and that's where my idea for Algo came about. So yeah, I think playing the game and trying to get into transferables, you want to be able so that in whatever you're actually leveraging, that you're always adding more to the pool than you are taking away, because otherwise you're just a gold miner and you're not providing any pickaxes for the people to start mining more gold.
Can you explain again the example of letting people leverage more off you than you leverage off them, as in adding more to the pool than taking?
Well, I mean, in principle, it seems it's straightforward, right? Like if people are reliant on you, you're obviously gonna amass more capital. You're gonna get a lot more leverage in that regard, because like, I mean, if I have more capital and I'm giving money out to people for them to invest, like I'm just a bank, I'm giving loans out. If I'm doing a follower base, a user base, what I'm leveraging is my market share, my people who are actually fucking with me, and then I just get sponsorships, and then I send them over to whoever I believe also is redeemable of those qualities. And for data, if I have these intelligences that are amassing a bunch of new information, then I better be creating enough data so that I can supply more models and also supply other people's models, so that they would inevitably pay me for that. But also I could also diversify and pivot because I have more data. It's not like I'm burning my fossil fuels, you know, like I'm creating plastic out of it. I'm creating shit that we can use more and more.
Right.
So like if you're talking about posters, right? I think posters would be a good example. Let's forget AI for a second. Like like in regards to, I mean, transferables, you can strictly say like there's capital intensive, and then there's like people who actually agree with your posters. Then I mean, you could leverage, transferring artists. You could platform artists to some degree. I don't know, like I know that's what you were interested as well. Like you could platform artists, and let's say, like you get like 1,000 artists on your side and they love your industry. You could recommend for example, have them go to a certain art gallery if that's what they need. Like let's say a friend who needs an art gallery or whatever. You sell their artwork, their posters to them. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Or
you're not just taking from these artists, you're giving them more platform to create more things in the field. So where
Right.
people will be dependent on you for the resources that you provide.
Right. Or there's the dependency of different online art businesses, poster businesses, whatever. They use print on demand on their back end, which is pretty competitive industry. But then I can also, use my asset as a print on demand front. Now, this makes me think of just an idea. So my roommate's business venture project thing is this app that scans your fridge for all the ingredients that's in it, and then will give you recipes to make just based on what you had. Now, here's the deal. There's also potentially an AI that inputs, I have this, and then doesn't, let's say it can either tell me, but better yet, it just creates. Print on demand webpage created. Every single artist poster website created. Emails to brick and mortar stores already sent out. It's kind of like next level Shopify. I don't know. But yeah, just AI basically utilizing your assets more efficiently or increasing them. And this is also a kind of a friendly idea, because now let's say, so it could, which friendliness obviously can always help with penetration, because you can do a Trojan horse. So for example, let's say a consultant could always go into a company and pitch the CEO or whoever that they could be doing more than they already do with what they have and increase their profits by going into this industry or whatever. And they might not want to do that because, it's too risky for their brand or whatever. But what if there was a program that you plugged into your system, and now your employees are still set doing what they're doing. However, we're now going to also utilize your assets for all of this and this and this and this, and put you into all these different industries. And you basically can call it, like, I don't know, monopolize.me or something. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah,
Like,
no. That's so that's actually a very interesting point that you bring up, and that's actually a very terrifying thing. Like that is the scale at which I talk about, like being a CEO of a bunch of umbrella companies run only by AI. What you're talking about is like decision making machines.
Right, and that's of course where the CEOs of the big corporations would never do that, because they don't know what the fuck the AI is going to do to their company. They're already creating good profits.
But the new ones who actually incorporate that, like,
right,
it's unimaginable what kind of like productivity they can
do. At the very least, like, well, for example, they optimize factories with AI, right? Previously, it was done by supply chain managers. Now it's a hassle, which is interesting. Factory managers, supply chain managers, your jobs are going to be going into validate this plan rather than create this plan. And then, less and less validation will be required, and more reliance on AI, which could be very dangerous. But, okay. Fuck, I lost it.
No, that's actually super interesting. That's super interesting. That no, I haven't really expanded on that idea yet about these decision making machines. I'm writing it down right now. Because that's a completely different topic, but like something like that, like, is incredible, because I mean it's like basically from looking from into the fridge to into the entire macroeconomic scale of all these other parameters to begin with, but it's basically just working within the confines of what variables that they perceive
Yeah.
and then they make decisions based on that.
Which, as humans, I find we can be bad at doing, because because when you specialize, you get your identity attached to it, or if you're a consultant, then you're just not specialized in it. Interesting business idea, which is an application of AI, not necessarily a very technical kind of engineering kind of thing, but so now private equity companies, they'll buy companies, right? They'll input the CEO, but now the CEO is very much a bot, which I guess is just changing up the idea of, hey, ChatGPT, create me a company, to, hey, ChatGPT, here is our company. Now improve it, right? And this maybe will be something that, I don't know, maybe I'll do this, right? Where and then, but again, you get into the whole kind of AI is just competing against AIs thing, which I'm kind of happy to think of now, because boy, shit is getting really dark in theory land. But anyways,
No, bro, that's actually incredible because like, I mean, the thing is, you can't really see like I do see like something like language models like ChatGPT to actually be incredibly restrictive in those decision-making processes just because they hallucinate a lot. But like, I mean, it's kind of common to say some shit like that. But it's also like they don't have like language models just predict word values. They don't have any sense of truth. And that's the decision. That's what is the delimiting factor between like actual creative thought and actual like powerful, valuable content to be produced by these models versus just a bunch of word things that are just printed out. Like ChatGPT 4 is immense and it's an absolutely incredible feat. But like again, like it doesn't really spark my mind because the thing that's going to come out that actually will be groundbreaking, for one, we will not see it. Like the consumer will not see it because it's going to be so fucking competitive as an idea that they're gonna first apply it to all their businesses and then they're gonna show it to us. And so that should be terrifying because like these people are literally, that's the actual AI race. People don't realize. And that's the timeline that within the 7 years. Like I think like tangibly.
What is the AI race?
Pardon?
What is the AI race?
What? A rates?
What is the AI race? What is the AI race?
The AI race. Sorry. So it's going to be it's the race of actually making decision-making robots, as in replacing entirely what humans do. Like it's interesting that you say humans are really bad at that. You're kind of right. Like I'm trying to, like we're actually really good at, we're the best in all of life, but we have to, like the best people
There's just trade-off is what I was saying.
No, you're absolutely right. There are trade-offs, and that's where we're flawed because we have to specialize to some degree because we're so limited in our perspective, so that we have to come together and have unifying perspectives to understand every single variables. That's why differing perspectives are so valuable, because we assume different variables to gather our decisions, and once we come together with those same variables, we're able to make more whole, like more holistic decisions because of the fact that we consider a lot more variables. A machine learning algorithm who can see doesn't need to do that to any degree. They just take it all and they have no biases and they can compute as many parameters as they need. So then they would just take all these things into consideration and have the most best possible outcome, like a chess move where it's like it doesn't seem obvious as to why they're doing it right now, but it's very obvious in the late game where they just put their thing here. Be like, what did you do? Why did you do that? You'd be like, oh, just wait. And then suddenly they're making $300 billion per minute because they have all these different companies. And so, talking about scaling from decision making in a fridge to considering every single variable across a bunch of parameters and then putting it together, that's where the craziness is going to emerge. And that's also a dilemma for me, right? Because it's like I identify that, but that's why I have to work on something like, well, I don't know, because like, do I have to work on something first? Because I have to get the capital in order to do something as ambitious as that. Like something like that, those decision-making models, like you can only do so much in theory, and mathematically you can only get so far. You have to put it into tangible practice. And so like when I'm sitting right here and I that's where I'm having this like an internal debate where it's like, do I have to focus on algo and how fast and how much quality with speed can I optimize so that I can get enough capital just so I can ditch algo, make that monopoly, and then jump onto the decision-making bandwagon? Because I want to get there. And that's why I also have the question, like, should I try to get into these big companies like OpenAI so that inevitably I will be there and I'll be in the wave and then I can pull back and take that because I'll be at the forefront. That's my strategy. That's where I'm like having a debate, because how should I play it out where I can jump on these bandwagons as fast as I can so that I can be part of the reigning victors instead of falling behind because my model wasn't so good. Because it's now not become not even a fact of like who jumps on the AI wave first. It's going to be a fact of who gets the best AI wave. That's the true AI race. It's not these language models who can profit in the short term where they're all worrying about it. It's actually who can make the best decision-making machines, who can replace humans the fastest. That is the true race. And I think they know this. And that's why they're doing like large language models. But frankly, like there's a limit to them because while they can say a bunch of words, there's no meaning behind the words that they're saying intuitively. Once they develop that intuition, that's when shit is going to get real. That's when everybody's going to be replaced. Every intelligence is going to be like anyone who's making under 100K. In fact, anyone making 100 under 250K. In fact, maybe even a bunch of CEOs will be absolutely replaced. And those are not that far off. I think it's 7 years. I really don't think. I think 7 years could be too long. And that's the thing. These decision-making processes will not be as
That's
quick.
for ready to. The technology is there.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like
You're not gonna lose your job in 7 years. But
exactly. But I think like they won't be, the technology won't even be like human level. Like they won't be as great as us cognitively. They won't be as quick as us, but they'll just be able to make accurate decisions. And that's all they need. Because
accurate enough
once you
to
have
fulfill the kind of incentives of the company. Like it'll fulfill your role.
exactly. Because at that point, all
It
you
won't
need
have your personality, but turns out your employer didn't give a shit all along.
exactly. Literally. So if I'm the employer and now like you know, I
Yeah.
might have a bunch of dumbasses working for me, but I have trillions of dumbasses working for me who never sleep. That will outcompete
Yeah.
any company. That will.
Yeah.
Inevitably.
John, on your decision of what you need to do right now, I ask that we come back to it later so that we can wrap soon.
No,
But
absolutely.
all that comes to mind is that's a question for Sam Altman. Of course, you know, best case scenario is he would give you the answer or discuss it. And
You're right. I'll write it down.
for me personally, I always now look at what is my vision for my end goal for myself. And the reason that this is applicable to me is because a lot of times my actions are more so a matter of are they being influenced by outside forces. So it might be much less applicable here, but maybe at least, you know, it could at least give some guidance, the kind of spiritual, the more kind of spiritual visionary aspect before you get to the, you know, logical deductions. And then obviously, you know, as Duchenne said, make it the right decision, as in once you're there, you're in a vessel, you're in a vacuum, go 100%. But yeah, there's a few things I want to say before we wrap that are also similar, but I think I lost them. Yeah, I don't know. This whole time I have been thinking, bro, dude, this is the most banger one we've done, probably since the ones that didn't get recorded like before the new year.
Yeah.
Because those are fire, bro. This was so banger. We went from fucking Justin Bieber as a kid to literally the most scary AI theoretical outcomes in the short term.
Yeah,
like,
bro.
This is actually such a sick
No, you're
podcast.
right.
Oh, and that reminds me, what I wanted to say was maybe as well to your point of generally what you do now, but also to the point of building up the leverage. I wanted to touch on what you were talking to me about earlier this week, which now I think your thing about building up the network could actually be really, really, really profound. Because what about this crazy scenario? Think about brain drain in countries. Like, people will find identity to something. Like I don't know, fucking like Face Clan, for example, right? Like gamers would be like,
Yeah.
like I gotta play for them, right? But even like think about brain drain, right? It's like theoretically, even if you got paid less, there are countries where you're like, yo, like this is actually, we see this in their day lives. Like, yo, there is on the margins quite a bit of reasons for us to just stay in Ottawa just because we feel like it. At least for me personally, right? Like it's not going to happen because on the margins, it loses out. Actually, not on the margins. It loses out a lot. But however, the point is that we feel some sort of identity with our geographic regions.
Of course.
Like for example, I don't know, like think about I don't know, like scientists in China. Like they want China to win the AI race, whereas people in the US probably want the USA to win the AI race. And in some sense, building out that network, I guess, is something that you can do based on your personality, which is an asset that you obviously already hold. You can bring in people and then create. Because the thing is, one super important thing is that like the danger of the vacuum, no longer in the kind of peasants world, rather in this world that we are living in, the danger of the vacuum is that we don't know what other people's vacuums are like, what level they're playing at, right? However, we won't forego it, not because we have the loyalty, but just because we know the advantages of it, let's say, right? So frankly, we know that as of right now, this is very important, right? Because we build off that energy. However, to bring in somebody to like, what I'm saying, like acquire, like draft, not like pull from the weeds, maybe pull from the weeds, like you're raising the kids, you bring them in, but also, at least right now, more importantly, is like poach or just like bring in. But even like poach, let's say, like somebody who's an A player and we really vibe with them, that is not only a colossal advantage to our vacuum because of the energy that it brings, but more importantly, number one, we bring in a greater kind of understanding of the level at which other people play with, not because we want to like outcompete with them, but in some sense at that point we're not even competing with them anymore, because if we're truly brothers, if we truly hold that loyalty with them, then their W's are our W's. And we have cut off competition from the outside essentially. So in some sense, it's like if you can be like the face, and I think like think about the war room, for example, right? It's like this is kind of what they tried to do, and in some sense they have claimed that they've like saved, for example, their members from some crazy shit or whatever, right? Or like for example, they're all trying to get him out of jail, for example, right? So if you can in some sense become like the FaZe clan of like of fucking taking over, that could be hugely valuable, because again, you can draw on your asset, which is your personality, and all those things I listed, I feel like are so profound. The matter of increasing the energy within here, as in increasing the velocity, and on the outside, taking away, you basically chip away at the massive danger, which is that as I said, and I'll say it again just because it's so fucking crazy, because again, the danger was in the peasant realm, as in, oh, you're in a vacuum, which means you don't have perspective, like that, like, right? But on this realm, it's just that this is so fucked. It's just that they can go faster than us because we don't know them, and that's a danger for them too, right? So it's mutually beneficial. Whereas in here, we're all going together, and we just cut away the competition because now we're together. And in some sense, as AI grows more and more, the one thing that we keep is our personal relationships. And the thing is, like on a monetary level, like this person's rich, oh, we're all celebs, whatever, we all, mingle the same circles. That's different. That also gets chipped away. That gets chipped away by AI more because, it can build up wealth, for example. So now you'll be a slave to AI. However, it's like for example, but where it's like truly like brotherly, right? And you build it up in a way where, like, for example, if you and I, didn't see each other for months, we would still be very loyal to each other.
Of course.
Right? So if you create the same connections, that is very important. And it has the added benefit of making motive more and more powerful. And if the more people that are working on it, like the more people that give a shit about it, the better, right? Like even like having Hadi in here now, you know what I'm saying? Like it just makes shit run smoother, right? So yeah, your thing about building up this is super important. Of course, yeah,
there are definitely caveats.
You in that way, you in some sense, because think about like PayPal, right? Like for example, like the PayPal mafia, right? But they're not really tight. But if they were truly brotherly, which can happen, as we know, because again, like the issue is, of course, that professionals don't have enough time to hang out. Thus, they don't have enough time to laugh, right? They don't have enough time to do all this shit. and because they care about their own so much as we do, they kind of obviously we had the kind of advantage of childhood, right, to build up this relationship. But if there is some sort of way to build that up, you are essentially building up the next kind of country level force, right? You become an. It's like you're
That's
not.
what we need to build, bro.
It's like you know what I think about, like bro, there's talks about how Rihanna during her Super Bowl show, right? She did like the triangle, right? And she's she's shouting out her label, right? Like what's it called? I don't know. But it's
The
like
Illuminati,
easy.
bro.
Sorry?
The Illuminati.
So it's actually, people are saying it's actually not the Illuminati, right? They were saying that they've seen them doing this before in concert. Jay-Z, Kanye, Rihanna, they always do this at, like, you've seen all three of them go like this, and they're it's like an ode to their label, right? So, and you'll see, like, always in their songs, right? They're always talking about their label, and it's like a force to be reckoned with, frankly, because that talent is just so good, both on the sense of creating the entertainment product, the music, but also like acquiring the connections and whatnot. That is like, you build up that network, and like for example, I think about, like, because earlier when we were talking, I was thinking about, like, well, what is the next church? And it's like, on one hand, there is no next church because divergence just occurs, which is like a Western trend. And also, otherwise, you just have sort of competition, and it's basically it's pretty entitled to say that, or naive to say that you will find some sort of secret or whatever sauce to create the next Christianity. However, we both know that there is a fat, massive advantage that we feel as youngins out here with nothing to having each other. It just has to be real, right? CKS is too forced. They're also too young to do exactly what we're saying, and they're also not trying to. It's a bit different. However,
right.
a lot of people do think about this, right? But it's just much more on a personal level. So it's really hard. If it happens, the members will only come on every so often, and then eventually you'll have to stop. It's like the fucking, I don't know, like the Secret Service, bro. Like even if they know about it, they want to join it. The only way that it's really is, like, what I'm saying, like, and then of course you start pulling out the talent when they're young, right?
You're right, bro. It's like Fight Club.
so-
You don't talk about Fight Club. They don't know about it.
So yeah, it's because and in some way, potentially you can build out the Illuminati, right? So
Exactly.
so
But
I
you're
know-
so
I
right,
thought
bro.
for
You're
so
so
long
right, because
it's
especially
crazy.
in this,
Crazy.
it's dire. It's dire, bro. It really is dire. And if you portray it that way, like, you'll be bound to capture some eyes, because frankly, like bro, competing with each other is honestly, like, literally logically the worst way to go about it. We could amass much more value if we all work together, and that's exactly my thought process, right? Because it's like, well, if I'm competing with all these people, and there are some conglomerates who are actually just working towards building the same thing, and they're just homies, they're going to end up reaching for the stars a lot faster than we can. But if we can fill in that gap, which is what I felt, as in not having something like TKS, no accelerator to push me behind when I was young and learning, and especially in these very fruitful years
And
in
even now,
university. Exactly.
no
We need
Stanford,
that.
right? No, because, and the thing is, this is Stanford, right? Like, people afterwards, even in their 60s, like, motherfucker, politicians will pick out judges because they went to university together, because they partied together. Things on this level, the thing is, I say that I don't know how to curate this, but it seems like it's much more doable than sorry, it is very doable. Like and it's just fun, and it's just sick. And
It's what motive could be, bro. We could be a bunch of these things, man. Motive
you can build a
motive network.
But the point is that if again, like, it's typical, but because we feel the spark, we know that it's not. We just don't really know how to build a spark. But in some sense, we as entertainers have always thought about basically what the entertainment industry thinks about, which is, how do we manufacture that spark, right? So in some sense, we're basically on the same parallel as them.
But we can do it, bro. We
in
bring
some
the
sense-
spark out of people. That's
and
just
we
how
really-
we do it.
Right, we really care about that. And in some sense, yeah. So
Absolutely, bro.
so that's
We
actually
ignite
sick.
the stars so they can shine brighter than anyone else,
And
bro.
in
That's
some
how we
sense,
do it.
John, this is actually exactly what we've always dreamed of. Because when we say because when we say being prolific, as in, and I say like the kind of original thing, when somebody asks me to really, you probably, I think, asked me to go really, really deep on what is it that I actually want, and the only thing I could really spit out was, I want to be in the minds of influential people. So in some sense, when we talk about, prolificacy, power, this is really, in some sense, what we're talking about. It's
Absolutely.
like on a very physical level. If you just have, if the most, this is typical, right? But also not so typical. If the most powerful people really, really fuck with you hard, that's typical, I guess. But
not
we just
in the
know-
sense of like they respect you, like you want homies,
right?
you
No,
need
and
people to die for you.
right. And venture capital is not necessarily the way to go about it because it's just monetary based,
Exactly.
right? And the only thing that I wanted to say, not to point out, but just it's this thing
That's
that
really
it's the only
interesting
thing.
that you say that though, monetary based. You have to make it ingrained in their lifestyle. It has to be ingrained in their psyche.
Well,
more
the thing
so.
is, probably, and this could be studied more, but probably part of the reason why these artists are so committed to Jay-Z's record label is that like he brought them up. I don't know, maybe they respect him as a kid, and then they brought him up from. It's like me and Apple, for example. You know what I'm saying? Like I still want to be the CEO of Apple, right? But Andrew Tate is a great example because he literally has a ton of people trying to be very, very successful, and when they become successful, they're still gonna fucking love him in some sense.
Exactly.
They would literally because he
looking for
basically
his
has
Neo. He's
he
looking for
basically-
his Neo, bro.
right. He basically has people lined up to join the war room. He has the most successful people of the future of tomorrow lined up to join the war room like this. And obviously, I mean, I don't know if it's a question in your mind, but my thing is like, yo, if I'm trying to create it, not now, as in before, I thought about like, wait a minute, that's my competition.
Yeah.
That motherfucker right there is my competition because obviously I don't want to suck anybody's dick.
Bro, Andrew is our competition, man.
Which was ridiculous. Which was a ridiculous revelation.
Of course, but now it's like obvious because of course he is. Of course, the top is our competition. That's how it has to be. That's how it's always been.
So just tangibly, the advantage that we have is what I talked about. Those kind of 3-pointers, the kind of internal, and then you shave off the competition on the outside in here, and it's like kind of. Maybe on another kind of tangible, it's like the basic equation is sort of like let me reference Kim. Let me reference Kim. When you have more children, your love multiplies. It doesn't divide. So same thing. It has to be at the very least to break even. You have to generate X amount of, let's just say, net worth. Like the amount of competition that you cut off, you have to generate that X amount of net worth for it to break even. Do you know what I mean? As in like,
absolutely.
Like if I am no longer competing with you on a personal level, I have to personally generate the X amount of net worth in order for that to play out. And if I do, then I actually literally have no disadvantage because it's like you could either try, because like why would you even try to then compete against me when competing with me, you'll double your net worth.
Absolutely.
In the future.
That's how it has to be. And it will be inevitably.
The thing is we can because you talk, for example, about like your friendship with Raghav, right?
Yeah.
Like what is that?
Yo, it's a quelling the competition. Like
and we
become them. We become at the top tier.
And we've always said that, like motive is for the people, and like in some sense, in that way, it's like I own the real estate. However, it's like, let me even say this, like, I don't know, but on a tangible level, but this kind of plays out logically. If right now I say, like, for example, we want motive real estate, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars of houses around the world, right? And then I'm saying that has to be 50-50 between you and I. No investors, because I want for us to own that so nobody else can take it away.
Of course.
Now, theoretically, on a personal level, somebody can become my equal. You know what I'm saying? As in, if you and I feel like equals to each other because of the personal level, right? And there's nothing really deeper than that. Theoretically, if this relationship can be cultivated, like let's say there's 3 of us now, right?
Crazy.
If that relationship can be cultivated, and we now all 3 of us feel like equals, I will now want to split the real estate 3 ways.
Mm-hmm. And we will.
Now, for this to literally be achieved, and it's like, do I trust him? Like again, if it literally comes to that point where the relationship is cultivated to that extent, and it's a three-way thing,
Of course. And at the end
then
of the day, like if he disagrees, then we would buy him out. Like we.
that's also true. And right, and of course, there's a lot of caveats. You can't let right. There's all that shit. Whatever. Somewhere deep down in the closet still says that we still have a voting power to outvote you. I don't know.
Absolutely.
We're low-key still the leaders. Actually,
Of course. We always have been.
If you somehow outvote you or I out of motive, then we will be so mad at you that by the time it's over, we're going to own it again, and your family will be in just lifelong torture. Like you know what I'm saying?
You're gonna be accountable for your retribution. You're gonna be in generational debt. We're sending Better Call Saul on your ass.
Yeah, right.
Harvey Specter, Mike Ross, all of them.
Motive banks, any sort of loans or whatever that motive bank has essentially defaulted on will be passed over to you.
Of course.
You signed the paper.
In fact, we will default on purpose just so we can have that just in case. Because we could never default. I mean, we pay back. We're rich, so we could never go bankrupt. That's just how we do, bro. The competition can't handle it, and we're gonna absorb them just like Agario into our clan, into an amalgamate, the mafia of top G's.
Bro, listen, bro. The thing is, for us to go and throw the proper festival, right? The proper festival at, let's say in India, right? Somewhere in India, we throw the festival there. Because we throw it all around the world, but this is just the case.
Of course.
And it's like, the festival is targeted at the right people. Nobody knows, though.
Yeah.
Gunna shows up, Jordan Peterson shows up, whatever. I don't know, Ice Spice shows up, whatever. All right? But then we have the after party, you know what I'm saying? In some mansion, right? And we just happen to run into, like 15-year-old Pranjit, bro. And we've been talking to lots of people on the pod, right? And we're like, yo, do you know anybody who we should have on here right now? And then the fucking guy's like, yo, interview my boy Pranjit, right?
He's a millionaire, young 15. He's been working hard. He did 1,000% on the SATs. Let's get him on.
Saying. And now Pranjit is on the PJ with us, going to the next one, and we're talking to him. You know what I'm saying? We're seeing what's going on. Next thing you know, Pranjit goes to Stanford, but we're tight with him. We're tighter with him. You know what I'm saying?
He drops out because he's like, damn, this is weird. He enrolls in Motive University. Now he's working on
his own company, and it's like, but we're already all in that. We're tight. We're tight with Pranjit.
We got this wrong.
And now Pranjit has 1 million fucking children, and we're all the fucking godfathers.
Real. And now we have a bunch of more Pranjits to work for us.
And that's what I'm saying. And all of our wives are the godmothers. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, bro. And then we do the same thing in every other country, right?
And this is a mass
via the festival.
Real. It's a pipeline. It's a pipeline of geniuses.
And it's a pipeline of geniuses because you know what? Maybe not. But you know what? Young, ambitious teenagers and people in general care more about than, solving the world's greatest problems? Fat mansions, private jets, and motive. So
of course
we have that. We own this.
We got it all.
We own this one. We own all of it. You want to come here? That's cool, bro. All right, we'll lap you up. But at the end of the day, it's not transactional. Because by the end of it all, we're all fucking tight.
Exactly.
We're homies. We're all homies, and it's like mentorship, bro. It's like the YMCA. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Like we all come up, and now it's like sort of like PayPal Mafia, but not really because we're all fat family. Like it's just familial. Like we all have family dinners, but it's it's not
the same crib.
It's not like one of those it's not like one of those movies where it's like the fucking rich family and they all hate each other. Like nah, it's love because it's the right
clout house. It's a clout house,
and it's all love. It's all love, and maybe it's not the right personality fit, and that person then goes on and becomes a billionaire in their own right. However, because if there's enough right personality types within motive, if there's enough right personality types, then we can keep out the wrong personality type who will still become very, very successful theoretically because we have enough. Because can that person on their own compete with the three advantages, right? Because we still hold that three advantages, including the first one, as in the internal energy flow, right? The internal energy.
You got the wind tunnel, bro. The wind tunnel versus your little dust ass. You can't compete with us,
right,
bro.
Right. Can they compete? And so the thing is, we don't have to apply any sort of monopolistic negatives necessarily. As in, like, we don't have to throw shade their way, because monopolies can play on sort of like two ways, right? They can either do negatives, like for example,
Crony
they'll
capitalism.
they'll make the supplier not they'll pay off the supplier to not go with that company, or they can do like sort of positive looks forward, which is let's say build out their own suppliers, right? As in, right? So it's kind of like the same thing in that sense. Wow. And that's an unfair advantage. And yes, it's marginally, everything is marginally, maybe not, because it's an idea.
Of course.
But it could be sick, because again, and it has the added advantage of building out what we've always talked about, which is a huge, because the thing is, you literally have thousands of children. You're not the sole father, but it's like, in the sense, like, you're like an uncle, right? Well, think about that. You're an uncle to thousands.
You're trying to be Scooter Braun. You're trying to be Scooter Braun. You're trying to be the agent. I see. And we will be. We'll be a massive agency for talent.
But this is why like the top G mentality has like 100 children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want like the you need to build up an army, number one, and also it gives enough for like probability to play its thing, and then the best will still you'll still have enough input to output a few kind of unicorns. But as well, it's the army, right? And it builds it out. And
Absolutely.
it's just so communal, because again, it keeps you sane. As in, it makes life not only worth living, but it makes it fucking sick. Because they always say, like, you want to have all of your team on the fucking yacht with you or whatever. And it's like, the bigger the team, the better. And again, the team has to be truly a team, and not just like an exchange, or I have to come to the dinner because then they'll hate me, right?
Transactional shit. This is real.
So
it's authentic.
So there's no real guidelines to it.
Of course not.
It's just energy. We either fuck with each other, or we don't fuck with each other.
It's either you like listening to Dushan, or you don't. Like.
That's right.
He's gonna be the decider. He's gonna come in. He's like, nah. We'll be like, all right.
But in some sense, yeah, he's the sorting hat.
Yeah, the sorting hat, bro.
Oh, that's good, bro. So community, because another thing I want to talk about aside from the church is like community centers. Like, for example, community centers would be where communities come together and obviously have a lot of influence, because they create a lot of they build these relationships with the families, because they provide the children with all these activities, and then the children create their relationships within these community centers. In fact, we went through this. A lot of the cliques in our school were created at the age of 5 or 6 within these community centers, where the families would come together, and then the parents would become friends, and then the toddlers would become friends, and then they would actually continue those friendships all the way up through high school.
It's always been a game. It's always been clans. Right. It's always been tribal.
That's right. So you and the thing is, yeah, you build off of that advantage, which is the most human one. You see it in every society, where even like in some societies, like, parents will find their children's like marriage partners as kids, and then they'll just grow them up together, like, to become friends, and then eventually they'll marry. This is utterly true.
Oh, bro, it's how the monarchs did it. That's how they split up monarchy.
That's right. Because they and the thing is, this idea is on that parallel, because you're right, because they cure, because they amassed so much stuff that the only thing that they could focus on, or the thing that was next for them to focus on, is how to curate the right family going forward. That's right. That's what they did. That's why they did it, because they weren't focused on the money instead, because they already had it. So it's just a matter of how do we curate the best.
Exactly.
And so yeah,
that's how they continue. They sustain their empire, and that's how we're gonna do it.
These community centers, they build up those relationships, and I even imagine it could have been like a big thing, like Like it depends. The part of the reason why this is a big thing for parents is because you have to pay to be in a certain class of community center. Thus,
Absolutely.
your kids already are talking to the right class. So
Look, this is gonna
the
be
soul game.
what
The soul game is not the soul game. Individually, it's not the path, because even in a world prior to AI, let's say
of course.
your family's alone. You just have the money, but the thing is, and then you try to move into old money. You try to move into old money, right? From new money to old money. However, what if you create a force that is bigger than old money?
And that's
so big
how-
big that they have to join it. So big that they have to join it rather than you joining them. Because, like, for example, the war room joins motive, right, at this point. For example, because we've just become that powerful, we've outcompeted them, their group, for example, right? And the thing is, people inside of motive might actually want to, because they are loyal to the identity, let's say. And the if we won, literally my life's mission from fucking Rockway to what is, if motive has gotten to the point where old money, old power will join it under, and who's on top of that?
We're the
You are.
usurpers, revolutionaries. That's how we gotta be. It's the regime change, bro.
And then
And
Yeah.
then we win. We're going to
And
be
then-
a
and then-
bastion of the last remaining human consciousness, a conglomerate of the greatest minds. That's always what it's been for. But not
Yeah.
only the greatest minds,
Yeah.
but the most liberated minds. And we're gonna leverage that to the best of our ability.
and that's from rags to riches right there, baby.
Absolutely, man. That's how we do it, bro. We need an outro music because that would have been so cinematic right now.
Yo, this was such a fire conversation,
Of
dude.
course, bro. Of course, man.
Where do we start?
Yo,
Oh,
start from
Fucking
Justin Bieber, Scooter
Justin
Braun.
Bieber to fucking
It's actually how the
It's all-
progression is supposed to play out. It's how it's gonna play out. It's how it's
Bro.
supposed to play out, bro.
shout out Scooter Braun. I love you.
Real. Maybe he'll
We're
join
gonna-
Motive.
I'll buy your company. You know
Real.
what I'm saying? Like, I
You
know.
can work with us. We'll be partners. We'll be friends. We'll be friends in due
You know what
time.
I'm saying? We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Of course, bro. Of course. Anyways, bro,
All right.
we got some strategy to make, some planning to do. We
Man.
got this.
It's both scary and exciting, and we'll be up there. We'll be up there.
Of course, man. There's not a doubt in my mind. I could never like that's the one thing that I could say confidently. Like there's never been a doubt in my mind. Like not a second did I think like, yeah, this could not happen. Of course it will. Of course it will.
Really, I'm doubtful, bro. I've always been doubtful of myself,
Oh no. You can't be.
and that's why this is important, right?
Nah, you know deep down that it's impossible. Otherwise you die. Like there's literally
Only the thing is, for me, my progression still is that deep down I know, and I've always just been trying to clear out all of the doubt to get to the reality, and that linear for me continues. And being honest to myself is the number one thing I can do to increase chances of success.
and honestly,
Anyways,
in being honest with yourself, you know for a damn fact that this talent is unattainable by the common folk. And at that point, you understand that you are destined for greatness. We got that spark, baby. That's
Yo.
all you need.
we will build out the energy circle, the fucking Jedi,
Yes,
the
bro.
Senate,
Jedi Temple, man.
and
Our network
along
is
the
going
way-
to be incredibly powerful,
along
but
the
more
way,
so incredibly fulfilling. And in
yeah,
that,
that's
we will
the
be
point, right?
we will be
Prolific.
an immense force.
That's right. That's
in
right.
this industry.
And along the way, we will move very, very far up the linear of, taking the spark and replicating it in
Absolutely.
entertainment venues. But it's really just to get the right people to come through and fully feel it for themselves.
The goal is to empower consciousness and to let it ascend to its maximum capabilities. That's always been the goal. To truly not vilify, to invigorate the human experience. And that's
That's
what we
right.
stand for.
That's
That's
right.
what we've always stood for. Just experience. And we're gonna do it.
Of
That's
course.
all it's what's always been about. and that's what we're gonna bring. That's the value that we've
There is-
always been trying to bring.
There is so much more to life than what we were brought into.
Absolutely, and
There's so
we will
much,
realize
and the most, and the
full
most,
potential.
yeah, the most virtuous thing that I can do is to succeed, and as I said earlier, prove that. Yeah,
You're
like,
right, bro.
the
It's
thing is, I used to say, like, it's always common. The kids they never understand because they're born into it, but nah, they will because they'll have the videos and they'll have the circles, bro. They'll see. They're like, yo, why are you spending time with this broke motherfucker? Why are they here?
You can see they got that.
Why? He's yeah, like
I
bro,
can see the sun
he's
shining
not
too.
he's not wearing a Laura Piana. He's in fucking Walmart. He's in Tommy. Why is he in Tommy, bro? That's just broke. I'm like, yo, the middle class has special people, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
like we bring them
Have
in
that-
and then they themselves move into the upper class, but along the way they they become fulfilled through this huge community, and then there's no point for them themselves personally to look back and have these huge moments of not they'll have huge moments of reflection, however it won't hold them back the way it does individuals, because they're on an individual journey. And I can make it as basic as One Direction and Justin Bieber have talked about the differences between touring with their boys and touring individually, and that's partly why Justin Bieber went through like a degenerate patch, whereas One Direction didn't really, because they had themselves. So it's even on that kind of basic level, you can see that play out. And we're creating the One Direction.
Absolutely, we're bringing the spark out of people, and we're picking them up. We're reigniting the spirit whenever they falter, and that's
right. That's right.
Absolutely, man.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Soccer league coming in the summer.
Yes, bro. The soccer league is fucking coming.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Let's think about it. Let's continue to build wealth, continue to build value, and let's bring that spark out of everybody. That's how we roll. That's motive. That's motivation right there, baby.
Yeah, big pal. If anybody were to go to dive into the sphere, bro, it'd be too powerful, because even the accountability would be so cutthroat, bro. They would die under the heat, but
they'd crash and burn.
They crash and burn, but the right.
It's like Icarus, man. You fly too close to the sun, they can't handle it. You got to be a star yourself to withstand the heat, just like we do, because we got that spark, baby. Anyways, boys, I love you.
Yo, Hadi, I love you, bro.
Love you too, boys.
I love you, Hadi.
Love you, John.
Love you, Andrew.
See you next Sunday, boys. 9 o'clock.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.